Chapter 41:14. Lu Ming's remaining merit points could only support him to cultivate on the third level for less than 5 years. He planned to use the last of his merit points to increase his cultivation level. He stood up and left. He went back to the second one, the one filled with the original godly spirit's blood. He jumped into the lake and started cultivating. Immediately, Lu Ming sensed a terrifying pressure. It felt like his body was going to be torn apart. But at the same time, an incomparably pure energy kept penetrating into his body from the original godly spirit's blood. It was flowing into every cell of his body. Lu Ming's forbidden strength was increasing rapidly. Even though it wasn't as fast as a battle to the death where it could stimulate the potential of one's cells, it was still increasing. In the blink of an eye, half a year passed, just as Lu Ming had predicted. In half a year, Lu Ming had indeed broken through from the 5th level of the Divine Emperor realm to the 6th level. His strength had increased explosively. After breaking through, Lu Ming didn't leave. He continued cultivating. He wanted to break through to the 7th godly emperor layer. Breaking through from the 6th to the 7th godly emperor layer was even more difficult. He had to break through from the middle godly emperor layer to the top godly emperor layer. Even here, it was impossible to break through in half a year. Lu Ming cultivated for 3.5 years and finally broke through from the 6th godly emperor layer to the 7th. At that time, Lu Ming had about 150,000 merit points left. If he wanted to break through from the 7th godly emperor layer to the 8th godly emperor layer, he would need even more time. Lu Ming guessed that he would need at least 15 years. Therefore, Lu Ming stopped cultivating and left the fortune tower. He went back to his residence. When he went back to his residence, he saw that Dandan and the others had already come back. They were cultivating in their own rooms. They were digesting the treasures they had obtained from the Merit Exchange Hall. Lu Ming also went back to his room. When he went back to his room, Lu Ming's eyes lit up because he sensed a powerful qi coming out of his room. It was Qiu Qiu's qi. Before going to the fortune tower, Lu Ming had told Qiu Qiu to come back alone, because Qiu Qiu couldn't enter the fortune tower unless he had merit points to spend. Obviously, Qiu Qiu didn't have any. Therefore, Qiu Qiu went back to Lu Ming's room to refine the black spear. After 10 years, Qiu Qiu had refined the spear. Qiu's evolution. Qiu Lu Ming knew that Qiu had already reached the limits of the God Emperor realm. One more step and he would become a God Emperor. From the Godly Emperor layer to the Great Supreme God layer, there was no such thing as a half-Great Supreme God layer. The next step was the Great Supreme God layer. But breaking through from the top of the 9th Godly Emperor layer to the Great Supreme God layer wasn't easy. One had to turn their stars into a black hole, which was extremely difficult. Lu Ming stood with his hands behind his back and waited quietly. Qiu Qiu's aura finally stabilized after a few days. Whoosh! Qiu Qiu shrank in size and flew to Lu Ming's side. "You refined that half of the black spear?" Lu Ming asked. "Not yet. I've only refined a portion of it. That half of the spear is no small matter. However, I've obtained an extremely powerful ability." Qiu Qiu said excitedly, "It's an ability. Let's go and try it out." Lu Ming looked interested. He took Qiu Qiu out of the room and went to a gigantic secret room. That kind of secret room was built in the celestial army of the Milky Way for people to learn from each other. There were rules in the celestial army of the celestial army. They couldn't fight against each other. That was why there were such secret rooms, surrounded by deployment spells. They could learn from each other and improve together. They couldn't fight. In the secret room, Lu Ming and Qiu Qiu were facing each other. "Lu Ming, you only have the strength of the 7th Godly Emperor layer. Do you want me to use my full strength?" Asked Qiu Qiu. "Use your full strength." Don't worry, you can't hurt me, said Lu Ming confidently. He could now fight against cultivators who were 6 cultivation layers higher than him. Even though his cultivation level was 2 cultivation layers lower than Qiuqiu's, he was still confident. You're really confident. Take my attack, Qiuqiu yelled. Its round body transformed rapidly, turning into a silver spear. It broke through the air and pierced toward Lu Ming. He's still holding back. The corners of Lu Ming's mouth rose. Qiuqiu had refined the black spear. If he used the black spear's ability, he should have turned into a black spear. But now he had turned into a silver spear. He hadn't used his full strength yet. Whoosh! The silver spear was extremely fast. In the blink of an eye, it was in front of Lu Ming. Clang! Lu Ming's palm was like a knife, slashing the tip of the silver spear. Instantly, the silver spear vibrated violently and then flew backward. It retreated a long distance and hit the wall of the secret chamber, causing the wall to roar violently. Numerous talismans appeared on the wall. His attack power has increased. Lu Ming nodded, judging in his heart. In the past, when Qiuqiu turned into a silver spear, he could fight against cultivators who were 2 cultivation layers higher than him. But now, Lu Ming estimated that he could fight against cultivators who were 2.5 cultivation layers higher than before. However, this wasn't Qiuqiu's strongest form. Qiuqiu, use your full strength. You're no match for me. Show me what you've got. Don't hold back, Lu Ming said. How dare you? I was afraid of hurting you. But now I won't hold back. Qiuqiu roared as his body underwent another drastic change. He turned into a black spear, a complete black spear. At the same time, a terrifying aura emanated from the black spear. It was filled with an ancient and desolate feeling. It gave Lu Ming the feeling that he was facing a primordial deity. Primordial deity? Lu Ming was a little surprised. Could that black spear have something to do with the primordial deity? Lu Ming, be careful. I'm going to use my strongest attack. Qiuqiu's voice sounded. Then, the black spear pierced through the void and pierced toward Lu Ming. In the process of piercing, the black spear emitted rays of light. These rays of light condensed into the figure of a huge primordial deity. This primordial deity also held a black spear in his hand and pierced toward Lu Ming. Lu Ming's pupils shrank slightly. Chapter 41:15. Interesting. Lu Ming's eyes were filled with anticipation. At the same time, he activated the battle's secret art to increase his combat power by 6 times. All sorts of secret techniques were activated in his body at the same time. His entire body was shrouded in a dazzling glow. This was because Qiuqiu's move made him feel pressured. Boom! Lu Ming threw a punch. Heaven and earth shook violently as it collided with the black spear. An earth-shattering boom rang out, and a violent airflow swept out in all directions, crashing into the surrounding walls, but was blocked by the walls. Whom! The black spear in the primitive godly spirit's hand shook violently and then shattered. The terrifying fist energy continued to hit the primitive godly spirit and directly pierced through his chest. The primordial divine spirit dissipated and disappeared without a trace. The black spear that Qiuqiu had transformed into retreated rapidly and hit the secret room's wall again. Stop fighting! Stop fighting, you pervert! Qiuqiu shouted and turned back into a ball. He looked at Lu Ming in shock. You're quite powerful too, Lu Ming said. There was a look of joy on his face. Through the move just now, Lu Ming judged that Qiuqiu could fight across 4 levels, or even more. It might even exceed that by a little. At the same level, it was even stronger than ordinary universe prodigy list candidates. Its ability to fight across levels should be close to Ling Yu's. Previously, Qiuqiu could only fight across 2 levels. Now, it could fight across more than 4 levels. It had only refined half of the spear. This was too shocking. Qiuqiu's potential is simply endless. What talent is this? I've never heard of it, Lu Ming sighed in his heart. Qiu Qiu's talent was too shocking. It was simply heaven-defying. It felt even more impressive than his taboo power. As long as there were high-level godly weapons for him to devour, he could continue to evolve and improve. His talent would also become more and more terrifying. Lu Ming also secretly checked a lot of information, but he couldn't find any similar records. However, after this battle, Lu Ming could roughly judge his combat power. He could fight across at least 6.5 levels. This was a huge improvement. If other people knew about it, they would be scared to death. Taboo power is indeed heaven-defying, Lu Ming exclaimed. He was a little proud. However, when he thought of a problem, his proud mood immediately disappeared. He thought of Fei Huang. She was also a taboo. Xian Yinqing's father in his previous life was also a taboo. However, these taboo powers didn't seem to have the upper hand against the heavenly palace. Instead, they seemed to be at a disadvantage. Lu Ming did not think that he was stronger than the other taboos. This meant that the Sky Palace was truly terrifying. Its strength was far beyond what Lu Ming could fathom at the moment. Lu Ming still had a long way to go. Let's go. Let's go. It was a first-grade Celestial Soldier armor. The second-grade Celestial Soldier armor had a forbidden power that could seep into their cells and control them. He didn't know if the first-grade Celestial Soldier armor had such a thing. After thinking for a while, Lu Ming began to put it on. As expected, as soon as he put on the first-grade Celestial Soldier armor, there was an even stronger power that seeped into his cells and hid. However, Lu Ming's taboo power was scattered in every cell. He could clearly capture this power. As long as Lu Ming wanted to, he could erase this power at any time. I'll use it for now. The first-grade Celestial Soldier armor can block the full power attack of a third-layer Divine God expert. It'll be very useful at a critical moment. Lu Ming muttered. At this moment, his eyes flashed because he felt that there was someone outside the door. It wasn't Dandan or Ling Yue, but someone else. Lu Ming got up and opened the door. He saw an elegant middle-aged man in a white robe. He was obviously a celestial official. To be able to become a celestial official, almost all of them had the cultivation of the Divine Lord Realm. Lu Ming did not dare to be careless. He cupped his fists and said, "First-grade Celestial Soldier Mu Yun greets, Lord Sky Official. May I know why Lord Sky Official has come to my humble place? I'm looking for you because I have something to do. I have a mission for you. Follow me," the scholarly Sky Official said. "A mission? Just me?" Lu Ming said as he looked towards Dandan and Ling Yue's room. "Naturally, you're not the only one, but you're the only one in this area. Follow me." With that, the scholarly Sky Official turned around and walked away. Lu Ming was puzzled, but he could only follow and ask, "May I ask, Lord Sky Official, what is my mission this time?" "I don't know the details, either. I only know that it was Lord Heaven's order. And you were also personally named by Lord Heaven," the scholarly Sky Official said. After he finished speaking, he curiously glanced at Lu Ming, as if he wanted to see clearly what was so special about Lu Ming that was worthy of being personally named by the Lord Heaven. "The Lord Heaven personally named me?" Lu Ming was slightly startled and couldn't help but feel a little apprehensive. Could it be that the Lord Heaven had discovered something? Or could it be that the Lord Heaven saw that his performance was outstanding and his talent was powerful, so he had a new mission for him? I can't guess. Lu Ming carried a mind full of doubts as he followed the scholarly Sky Official to a great hall. When he arrived at the great hall, he discovered that there were already some people there. "They are all top-notch monsters." Lu Ming glanced around and was astonished, because all the people in the great hall were young, and their cultivation levels were very high. Lu Ming carefully sensed that they were all at least of the 7th godly emperor layer. Only a few of them had the strength of the 7th godly emperor layer. Most of them had the strength of the 9th godly emperor layer. On top of that, they were all wearing golden armor. First class celestial soldier armor. Those people were only godly emperors, but they were all first-class celestial soldiers. One could imagine how strong they were. Lu Ming was wearing a golden first-class celestial soldier armor, so he didn't attract any attention. Some people just glanced at him and didn't pay him any attention. Lu Ming stood on the side and observed. Including him, there were 35 people in the Great Hall. Most of them were from the top 10 clans, and a small number of them were from the top clans. Those people looked puzzled. Like Lu Ming, they didn't know what mission they were going to accept. Lu Ming waited calmly. One after another, a few more people arrived. They were all young people, and their cultivation levels were very high. However, none of them were divine emperors. They were all godly emperors. In the end, there were 39 people gathered there. At that moment, a few people came in through the great door. Heavenly Human Clan. Lu Ming was surprised. The 3 people who came in later were all from the Heavenly Human Clan. They had golden hair and a unique chi. They were very easy to recognize. Chapter 41:16. The 3 heavenly humans who came in were all middle-aged. They were casually dressed in long robes, but they gave off an unfathomable feeling. Lu Ming's heart skipped a beat. Even if the 3 of them were not divine masters, they were still top-notch emperor gods. They were definitely unimaginably powerful. The scene quieted down. They knew that they would soon know what mission they were going to carry out. The 3 heavenly humans scanned the scene. The middle-aged, square-faced, heavenly human spoke first. "All right, everyone is here. Now, I'll tell you about the next mission." Everyone stared at him with bright eyes, waiting for his next message. "The next mission can be considered an opportunity for you," the square-faced heavenly human continued. "Has anyone heard of the Grand Ancient Divine Court?" Grand Ancient Divine Court? Lu Ming looked puzzled. He had never heard of this name before, but just by hearing the name, it gave off an extraordinary feeling. Grand Ancient Divine Court? Is it the Grand Ancient Divine Court that is as famous as the Life Spirit Heavenly Court and is against the Heavenly Palace? Someone exclaimed. Lu Ming had never heard of it, but that didn't mean that others had never heard of it. The top 10 clans had a long history. After a long time, they knew many secrets that ordinary people couldn't come into contact with. The one who spoke just now was a young man from the top 10 clans. Everyone present had different expressions on their faces. Some were shocked, some were puzzled. Those who were shocked had obviously heard of it before. Those who were puzzled, like Lu Ming, had never heard of it before. It's as famous as the Life Spirit Heavenly Court? This news made Lu Ming's heart tremble violently. In its heyday, the Life Spirit Heavenly Court was said to be in existence that could challenge the Heavenly Palace. It was extremely powerful. Although it was later destroyed by the Heavenly Palace, the legacy it left behind still made countless people crazy. Since the Grand Ancient Divine Court was as famous as the Life Spirit Heavenly Court, it was obviously in existence that could challenge the Heavenly Palace. Could their mission this time be related to the Grand Ancient Divine Court? That's right. It's the Grand Ancient Divine Court. The square-faced celestial being nodded and said, "Back then, the archaic Divine Court was rebellious. They did not respect the Heavenly Palace, and even tried to overthrow the Heavenly Palace. In the end, they were destroyed by the Heavenly Palace. However, although the archaic Divine Court was destroyed, one of its core worlds was preserved and controlled by the Heavenly Palace. However, this inner world was created with the blood and sweat of countless experts from the Archean Divine Court. It's surrounded by the 3,000 secret magics of the Archean era and countless other secret magics. Combined with a spell formation, it's impossible to break through. The powerful beings in the heavenly palace will only destroy this world if they attack it forcefully. If they want to enter, they can only slowly break through the formation outside. By the way, some of you might not have heard of the Grand Ancient Divine Court, but you should know one thing. You should have heard of the 3,000 ancient secret techniques, right? They came from the Grand Ancient Divine Court. What? The square-faced heavenly humans. Words made Lu Ming's heart tremble violently again. The 3,000 ancient secret arts actually came from the ancient divine court? This was shocking news. Lu Ming was not the only one. Many people were shocked as well. The Grand Ancient Divine Court relied on the 3,000 ancient secret techniques to dominate the world. At the same time, the Grand Ancient Divine Court also created countless ordinary secret techniques. It can be said that the Grand Ancient Divine Court is the origin of secret techniques. In the core worlds left behind by the Grand Ancient Divine Court, a large number of ancient secret techniques and many ordinary secret techniques were preserved. Now, more than 1,000 ancient secret techniques stored in the Heavenly Palace's Merit Exchange Hall were obtained from this core world. However, that was 500 stellar years ago. The square-faced celestial being continued to explain. 500 stellar years ago? Everyone sucked in a breath of cold air. How long had this been? Even a divine emperor wouldn't be able to live that long. Since taking control of the core worlds left behind by the Grand Ancient Divine Court, the people of the Heavenly Palace have only entered once. That was 500 stellar years ago. At that time, there was a flaw in the array formation around the core worlds, left behind by the Grand Ancient Divine Court. That was why the big shots of the Heavenly Palace found a gap and sent a group of people in. From there, they obtained a large number of ancient secret techniques and ordinary secret techniques. Of course, there were also other treasures. However, there are still many of the 3,000 great ancient secret techniques left in there that have yet to be extracted. However, ever since that time, the spirit formations surrounding that world have never revealed any flaws. Until recently. At this point, many people's hearts raced. They already had a rough idea of what their next task was. Recently, the array formation around the core worlds of the Grand Ancient Divine Court has had a flaw again. The big shots of the Heavenly Palace have taken action again. I believe that they will soon open a passage and send a group of people in. However, based on the previous experience, I feel that the ancient secret techniques in the core worlds left behind by the Grand Ancient Divine Court have already developed intelligence. The square-faced heavenly human continued to explain, but Lu Ming and the others were dumbfounded. What did they just hear? The ancient secret techniques had developed intelligence. Secret techniques could also develop intelligence. This was unheard of. You didn't hear wrong. 500 stellar years ago, the people of the Heavenly Palace went in and got the news that the ancient secret techniques had developed intelligence and could clearly sense people from other worlds. After the people of the Heavenly Palace went in, as long as their cultivation was too strong, the ancient secret techniques would sense them and hide. It's very difficult to find them. Otherwise, we wouldn't have only obtained a few hundred ancient secret techniques last time. The square-faced heavenly human explained. Although there were thousands of ancient secret techniques in the Merit Exchange Hall, not all of them were obtained from the core worlds. In the past, the 3,000 ancient secret techniques were very widespread and some were obtained through other channels. According to the previous experience, those ancient secret techniques would easily sense people above the divine emperor realm and hide. Once they hide, it's very difficult to find them. As for those below the divine emperor realm, those ancient secret techniques are not so scary and won't hide. That's why I asked you to come this time. Your cultivation is at the divine emperor realm, but your combat strength is very strong. You have a much higher chance of obtaining the ancient secret techniques. This time, as long as you obtain an ancient secret technique or an ordinary secret technique, you can keep it for yourself. You just need to make a copy and send it to the Heavenly Palace. At the same time, the Heavenly Palace will give you merit points as a reward. According to the preciousness of the secret technique, the merit points will be higher and lower. Of course, you need secret techniques that the Heavenly Palace doesn't have. Since the Heavenly Palace already has them, there won't be any reward. The square-faced heavenly human continued. Many people's eyes lit up, especially Lu Ming. What did he want the most? Secret techniques. No matter if it was an ancient secret technique or an ordinary secret technique, he wanted them all. Now, not only could he obtain a secret technique and make a copy of it to the Heavenly Palace, but he would also be rewarded with merit points. This was the best of both worlds for Lu Ming. Chapter 40, 117. Then the square-faced heavenly human said that if they copied the secret techniques to the Heavenly Palace, they would be rewarded the same as what they got from the Merit Exchange Hall. In other words, if they got an ancient secret technique that didn't exist in the Heavenly Palace and copied it to the Heavenly Palace, they would be rewarded with at least 100,000 merit points. That was because the cheapest ancient secret technique was 100,000 merit points, and some of the more expensive ones were as high as 1,000,000 merit points. The 39 young, first-rate, heavenly soldier-s all revealed burning gazes. If they could get dozens of ancient secret techniques that didn't exist in the Heavenly Palace, wouldn't they be rich? This was indeed a great opportunity. But don't let your guard down. According to our previous experience, there are many creatures in the core world left by the ancient divine court. These creatures were originally creatures of the primitive universe, but they all joined the ancient divine court. Although the experts of the ancient divine court were almost all killed in the war with the Heavenly Palace, the creatures left behind hate the creatures outside very much. That's right, the ancient divine court. Moreover, those creatures have lived in that world for a long time, and their aura is different from the outside world. If people from the outside world enter, the creatures inside can easily sense it and attack you. The square-faced, heavenly human explained. Everyone's heart sank. Sir, do you know what the cultivation level of the strongest being in that world is? Someone asked. I'm not sure, but there must be a divine emperor. As for the divine Lord realm, it should be impossible. It's not the primitive universe, just a remnant world. It can't give birth to a divine lord. At least, those who entered 500 stellar years ago didn't find the existence of a divine lord. The square-faced, heavenly human explained. Well, I've explained enough. I have detailed information here. Take a look and you'll know more. As the square-faced man finished speaking, the space between his eyebrows began to shine and the dreamy, divine jade appeared. Then, a massive screen of light appeared in the air. On this screen of light, there were lines of words describing the information left behind by the ancient divine court about the inner world. There wasn't much information. After all, people from the Heavenly Palace had only entered once, and that was 500 stellar years ago. It was too long ago. Soon, Lu Ming and the others memorized all the information. Oh, there's one more thing to tell you. You're not the only ones entering this time. Some of the core disciples of the Heavenly Palace will also enter. Some of them are from the Heavenly Human tribe, and some are disciples of the big shots. The square-faced, Heavenly Human tribe. What? Everyone at the scene was greatly shocked, and their expressions turned solemn. They were the top geniuses of the divine emperor realm in the primitive universe. Regardless of talent or battle strength, they were all top-notch in the divine emperor realm. However, when facing the heavenly human tribe prodigies, or the disciples secretly taken in by those big shots, they were not confident at all. It was clear that the main force entering this time was most likely the prodigies of the celestial tribe and the core disciples of those important figures of the Heavenly Palace. They were most likely there to make up the numbers. It was better than nothing. Some people's excited moods calmed down. However, Lu Ming was looking forward to it. His heart was burning with anticipation. A core disciple of a big shot in the Heavenly Palace? Didn't someone from the Heavenly Palace take Autumn Moon as a disciple? Would she go with them this time? If the Heavenly Soldiers wanted to get in touch with the core disciples of the Heavenly Palace, they would have to be promoted to divine generals. Otherwise, ordinary people wouldn't be qualified. But now the opportunity had come. If he could see Qiuyu and know that she was doing well, then Lu Ming could rest assured. If he wanted to leave the Heavenly Palace, he could do so at any time. Well, I've said what I wanted to say and seen what I wanted to see. Now come with me, the square-faced, heavenly human tribe member said. Then he walked into the hall with the other two heavenly humans. The interior of the hall was originally a wall, but when they approached it, the wall rippled like water and disappeared, revealing a large door. They stepped out and went through the door. Lu Ming and the rest hurried to catch up with him and stepped through the door. When they stepped through the door, they were deeply shocked by the scene in front of them. This was a vast and boundless void. In the vast and boundless void, there was a shocking scene. Those were runes. Some of the runes were the most eye-catching. Each of these runes was incomparably large as a planet. Given Lu Ming's eyesight, he could tell at one glance that there were a total of 3,000 runes that were as huge as planets. The 3,000 planet-sized runes emitted different colors, and each rune emitted a different aura. These 3,000 runes, are they related to the 3,000 ancient secret skills? Lu Ming's heart skipped a beat, because he sensed a familiar aura from some of the runes. It was the aura of the 3,000 ancient secret skills that he had cultivated. In addition, among the 3,000 huge runes, there were countless small runes. These small runes were much smaller, but there were many times more of them. Given Lu Ming's eyesight, he felt dazzled at one glance. He could not see clearly how many runes there were. These large and small runes were intertwined and connected to each other, forming a huge ball that kept spinning in the air. Furthermore, those runes and symbols were not motionless. Instead, they were flowing nonstop and changing nonstop. At every moment, countless transformations were occurring. At that moment, there were several figures surrounding the enormous sphere. They were attacking it nonstop. Rays of multicolored light entered the sphere one after another. What a strong aura! Lu Ming's pupils shrank. Those figures were extremely terrifying and unfathomable. They were many times stronger than the 3 heavenly humans who brought them here. Lu Ming was certain that those few figures were definitely almighty existences. They were not even ordinary almighty existences. Inside this ball is the core world left behind by the grand ancient divine court. The runes you see are all formed by the secret skills and the formation. The 3,000 largest runes were refined with the 3,000 ancient secret skills as the core. As for the smaller runes, they were refined with some ordinary secret skills as the core. Countless runes interweave with each other and are ever-changing. It's very difficult to break through. However, recently the formation has been loosened. Several big shots are trying to break it. You just have to wait, the square-faced Lord of Heaven said. As expected, Lu Ming's heart skipped a beat. Those runes were indeed related to the secret skills. He had guessed correctly. The core disciples of the Heavenly Palace. At this moment, someone whispered. Chapter 41:18. A core disciple of the Heavenly Palace, someone exclaimed. Lu Ming and the others couldn't help but look in one direction. Not far away, there were some figures floating in the void. There were a lot more of them, about 50 of them. Among them, the most eye-catching were a dozen young men and women. These young men all had blonde hair. The men were handsome, and the women were beautiful. The most special thing was their temperament. Every one of them had a noble temperament. This temperament was not deliberately displayed as if it was innate. It was a kind of unique temperament that was high and mighty, looking down on all living things. To be honest, this temperament made Lu Ming feel uncomfortable at first glance. Obviously, these young men and women were all from the heavenly human tribe. The rest of the people came from various tribes, and they were all top-notch geniuses. Lu Ming glanced around and was slightly disappointed when he didn't see Autumn Moon. Finally, his gaze fell on 4 hazy figures. The 4 figures were shrouded in a layer of hazy light. That layer of light was dreamy and illusory. After looking at it for a while, he felt as if he had fallen into a dream. Lu Ming quickly shook his head to wake himself up. What a powerful force! Lu Ming was a little shocked. With his cultivation and eyesight, he couldn't see through that layer of mysterious power. He even almost fell into it. However, Lu Ming could still tell that the 4 figures had slim figures and they were all young ladies. The other young geniuses' gazes were also mostly attracted by the 4 figures. The power of Damang. They are all disciples of the Lord of Heaven from Damang. Someone exclaimed in a low voice with shock. The Lord of Heaven from Damang. You mean the most powerful Lord of Heaven, who is ranked at the top of the Lord of Heaven? Another young man exclaimed. The ones who spoke were basically all Skyprides from the top 10 races. This was because they were more knowledgeable. That's right. It's that Lord of Heaven. Even among the 5 heavenly palaces, Lord of Heaven, she's ranked at the top. She's extremely terrifying. No one knows how strong she is. We only know that she once made all the living beings in an entire galaxy fall into a dreamland in an instant. Another young man said. The others sucked in a cold breath. In an instant, all the living beings in an entire galaxy had fallen into a dream. What kind of power was this? How many living beings were there in a galaxy? That was completely incalculable. But in an instant, all living creatures fell into a dreamland. Just how powerful was that? It was simply inconceivable. Even Lu Ming secretly sucked in a breath of cold air. When he had obtained the Gale Pearl, he had seen the owner of the Gale Pearl destroy a galaxy with a gale. However, destroying a galaxy was definitely easier than making all the living beings in an entire galaxy fall into a dreamland in an instant. In fact, it was much easier. Obviously, the Lord of Heaven from Damang Dream was much stronger than the owner of the Gale Pearl. It's said that the Lord of Heaven from Damang Dream doesn't accept disciples easily. Even if she does, she only accepts female disciples. I didn't expect that the Lord of Heaven from Damang Dream would have 4 young disciples at once. This is extremely rare. I've also heard that the Lord of Heaven from Damang Dream is a peerless beauty in the world. And her disciples are also the same. I really want to see the real faces of these 3 people. Some people talked secretly, but they didn't dare to speak too loudly. Is the mid-autumn moon in there? Lu Ming kept thinking and looking carefully in his mind, trying to figure out something from it. However, the layer of Damang Dream's power was very mysterious. He couldn't see through it at all. This made Lu Ming a little anxious. He was now in his current body, a forbidden body. His life origin aura had changed. Even if he stood in front of the autumn moon wouldn't be able to recognize him. If he wanted to confirm the existence of the mid-autumn moon, he had to take the initiative. However, now wasn't the time. There were big shots from the heavenly palace here. He didn't dare to act rashly. Otherwise, it would be very troublesome. Now he could only bide his time and wait until he entered the core world, left behind by the archaic divine court. Soon, 3 days had passed. At this time, the figures who were breaking the formation shouted at the same time. A terrifying aura spread out. Several big shots from the heavenly palace made their moves at the same time. Buzz! The ball made of intertwined runes vibrated violently. Then a passage appeared in one of the places. Now going quickly. Remember, you only have 3 years in there. After 3 years, we will pull you out by force, one of the big shots shouted. Let's go! A dozen young men and women from the heavenly human tribe were the fastest. Their bodies flashed, and they rushed toward the passage. Following closely behind were the core disciples of the big shots from the heavenly palace. Let's go too. Lu Ming and the other 39 first-class heavenly soldiers also moved and rushed toward the passage. As soon as they rushed into the passage, they felt the world spin. In the next moment, Lu Ming found that he had landed on a flat ground. Those who had rushed in before were all here. They didn't disperse. The aura of this world is indeed different from the outside world. Lu Ming sensed a little and felt that because this place was isolated from the outside world, it was naturally different from the primitive universe. Now let's go. This time, all of you listen to my command. Remember, my name is Yiyu. At this time, a calm voice sounded. It was full of unquestionable meaning. Everyone couldn't help but look over. The one who spoke was a young man from the heavenly human tribe. He was tall and handsome with an unparalleled temperament. His golden hair danced like golden flames. The other heavenly human tribe members vaguely regarded Yiyu as their leader. The core disciples of the big shots from the heavenly palace looked calm and didn't say anything. They remained silent. However, the first-class heavenly soldiers who were with Lu Ming felt a little uncomfortable. They were without a doubt the top geniuses in their respective tribes. Even in the entire primitive universe, there were top geniuses and were famous in the starry sky. Naturally, they were proud and arrogant. But now, Yi was commanding them in such a high and mighty tone. Naturally, they felt a little uncomfortable. However, no one dared to object. Yi Yu was from the heavenly human tribe. The true ruler of the universe was the heavenly human tribe. Yi Yu seemed to know that no one dared to object. After saying that, he turned around and led the heavenly human tribe members in a direction. Everyone followed. At this time, Lu Ming sped up and came to the side of the 4 women who were shrouded in the dream power. "Hello, ladies. I'm Mu Yin." Lu Ming cupped his fists and said. Everyone couldn't help but look at Lu Ming. This kid wants to hit on them. He's overestimating himself. The disciples of the Lord of Heaven in the dream power all have very high standards. Suddenly, some people whispered and laughed. Chapter 41:19. In everyone's eyes, Lu Ming was trying to strike up a conversation with the 4 disciples of the Lord of Heaven, a toad wanting to eat swan meat. The 4 disciples of the dream, heavenly Lord stopped in their tracks. One could see that 4 pairs of eyes were looking at Lu Ming with indifference. "For girls, I want to block your beautiful faces first. I wonder if it's possible." Lu Ming cupped his fists again. He wanted to confirm whether there was the mid-autumn moon in it. That big dream power not only blocked the appearance of the 4 people, but also blocked their life aura. Lu Ming couldn't judge by their life aura even if he wanted to. Therefore, only by letting them withdraw their big dream power could he make a judgment. As soon as these words came out, the 4 pairs of beautiful eyes immediately burst out with cold qi. At the same time, the faces of the other core disciples of the heavenly palace on the side also darkened. The faces of the dozen or so young men of the heavenly human clan were even gloomier. The other 39 first-class heavenly soldiers also showed a strange look. Lu Ming's words were a bit abrupt. "Boy, who do you think you are? Are the 4 goddesses someone you can meet whenever you want? You dare to speak rudely to the 4 goddesses. Now I'll give you a chance to admit your mistake to the 4 goddesses face to face." On the side, a young man shouted coldly, his body full of holy light. This was a heaven's pride of the angel clan, who was accepted as a core disciple by the Lord of Heaven of the heavenly palace. He was very talented and was known as a genius with a better future than Gabbert. However, Lu Ming merely glanced at him casually and ignored him. He continued to look at the 4 goddesses and insisted, "For ladies, please withdraw your big dream power and let me take a look at your beautiful faces. You're courting death." The heaven's pride of the angel clan shouted. He took a step forward and rushed towards Lu Ming like a flash of lightning. The moment he attacked, An angelic sword had already condensed and chopped towards Lu Ming's head. The sword Qi whistled, extremely terrifying, and its power was astonishing. Ninth Godly Emperor Layer. As soon as the other party attacked, Lu Ming could tell that his cultivation level was at the 9th level of the Divine Emperor realm. However, his combat strength was extremely powerful, far above that of the 9th level of the Divine Emperor realm. Boom! Lu Ming's expression was calm as a black, demonic sword appeared in his hand. Great Devil Sword Art. Clang! One black and one white. The two sword lights met in the air, erupting with a shocking boom. Then a figure shook violently and took 3 steps back. It was that prodigy from the angel race. So it turned out that he could only fight those 4 levels above him. He wasn't that strong after all. Lu Ming muttered in his heart. Fighting across 4 levels was the talent of an ordinary candidate on the universe prodigy list. Lu Ming had thought that the core disciples of the big shots in the heavenly palace would be very powerful. If others knew what Lu Ming was thinking, they would probably be speechless. How many candidates of the universe genius list were there in the entire universe? In the entire universe, there were very few of them, as rare as phoenix feathers and unicorn horns. Talents stronger than this, such as Ling Yue, the battle god, and Yuanwen, were even rarer. Even the disciples of the big shots in the heavenly palace couldn't be that strong. In fact, even the core disciples of the big shots in the heavenly palace couldn't all be as talented as the candidates of the universe genius list. Many of them were slightly weaker. In the Godly Emperor layer, those who could fight those 4 levels above them were actually the best among the core disciples of the heavenly palace. However, Lu Ming himself was too abnormal, and most of the opponents he met were also abnormal. Naturally, he set his sights on them. Another point was that there were rumors about how powerful the core disciples of the heavenly palace were, which made him think highly of the core disciples of the heavenly palace. He thought that they were all like Yuanwen, the battle god. At this moment, many people's eyes narrowed and they were shocked. Even the dozen young men and women of the heavenly human clan were the same. They could clearly sense Lu Ming's cultivation level. Lu Ming's cultivation level was only at the 7th Godly Emperor layer, but he had defeated an angel of the 9th Godly Emperor layer in one move. What did that mean? Even though the angel race's prodigy hadn't used his full strength in that move, it was still terrifying enough. At this moment, everyone had a whole new level of respect for Lu Ming. However, the angel's face was flushed with anger. "Little boy, I want you to die," shouted the angel furiously. 12 pairs of wings stretched out from his back. Holy light dashed to the sky. He looked like the Angel King. 12 battle swords condensed from holy light appeared around him. Die! With a loud bellow, the 12 celestial swords enlarged rapidly and transformed into 12 gigantic combat swords. They took turns slashing violently toward Lu Ming. At this moment, the angered prodigy of the angel race really used his full strength and raised his battle prowess to the peak. However, even at its peak, it could only fight someone who was 4 levels above it. Lu Ming used the Great Divine Wind Technique and the Great Fragmentation Technique. His palm was like a blade as he chopped out. Instantly, the void shattered, turning into a destructive wave that blasted towards the angel race's genius. Boom, boom, boom. In the sky, a series of explosions rang out. Powerful qi soared into the sky as the two sides clashed. However, the confrontation only lasted for a few breaths before the holy light was suppressed by Lu Ming. It trembled continuously before exploding with loud booms. The voice of the angel continued to retreat rapidly. At this moment, many people really sucked in cold breaths of air, feeling extremely shocked. Even after the angel race prodigy used his full strength, he still wasn't a match for Lu Ming. This was too terrifying. No wonder Lu Ming, who only had the strength of the 7th godly emperor layer, had been invited to the core of the ancient divine court. He was qualified. That angel race prodigy had gone mad. He raised his head and let out a long howl. His hair danced in the wind, and his eyes were filled with terrifying, killing intent. "Little boy, you're dead!" The angel race's genius roared. A terrifying fluctuation spread out from his forehead. Then an angel battle sword flew out, a great weapon of mass destruction. That was the angel race's great weapon of mass destruction. He flew into a rage out of humiliation. He wanted to use his great weapon to kill Lu Ming. "You think you're the only one who has a great weapon of mass destruction?" Lu Ming smiled coldly and took out the zephyr pearl. He was about to draw out the strong wind inside. "All right, that's enough." At that moment, a dignified voice sounded. It was the leader of the heavenly human clan, Yi. As soon as Yi spoke, the angel race's genius didn't dare act rashly. He withdrew his chi and looked at Yi, saying, "Prince Yi, this person is reckless and arrogant. He has no respect for anyone. He has offended his superiors. He must be severely punished." "I understand," said Yi indifferently. Then he looked at Lu Ming and said, "What's your name?" "Mu Yin," replied Lu Ming truthfully. "Mu Yin, right? Very good. You're talented. But first, you offended the 4 disciples of the Great Dream, Lord of Heaven. Then you attacked Jiao Luo. Now apologize to them. I can make the decision. After you apologize, this matter will be over," said Yi. Chapter 41:20. Yi ordered Lu Ming to apologize in a condescending manner. There was indeed such a rule in the Heavenly Palace. The core disciples of the Heavenly Palace's big shots had a higher status than the Heavenly Soldiers. In the past, even first-class Heavenly Soldiers were not qualified to come into contact with these core disciples. It was only during this special mission that Lu Ming and the others came into contact with these core disciples. Attacking a core disciple was indeed an offense. However, how could Lu Ming apologize to him? It was completely impossible. "This guy attacked me first. Can't I fight back? Also, I'm just curious about their appearance. I didn't mean to offend you, and there's no taboo, right?" Lu Ming said. Facing Yi, Lu Ming also had an indifferent attitude. When other people faced Yi, they were more or less in fear and trepidation. They were even respectful and reverent. However, Lu Ming naturally did not have such an attitude. Yi frowned, and a cold glint flashed in his eyes. Lu Ming's attitude made him extremely unhappy. He was already used to people being in fear and trepidation in front of him and being inferior to him. As for Lu Ming, he was as arrogant as him. What right did he have? Who was he? He was from the heavenly human tribe. What was Lu Ming? He was just from the human tribe. Even the top 10 tribes were ants in front of the heavenly human tribe. No matter how talented Lu Ming was, he was still a despicable ant. How could he compare to the heavenly human tribe? "How dare you speak to young Master Yi with such an attitude? Kneel down and admit your mistake." Before Yi could speak, another heavenly human tribewoman shouted. Lu Ming frowned. To be honest, from the beginning when he saw these heavenly human tribe people, their condescending attitude made him quite unhappy. At this moment, their attitude was even more obvious, making Lu Ming even more uncomfortable. "Everyone is equal. What's wrong with my words?" Lu Ming said indifferently. "Everyone is equal. Ha ha ha, ridiculous. Our celestial race is the ruler of the universe, so who can be equal to us? Your way of thinking is already treacherous and should be beheaded." The woman from the heavenly human tribe shouted coldly. Her golden hair danced in the wind. A golden energy emanated from her body and enveloped her. This energy, Lu Ming's eyes flickered. He discovered that the energy used by the heavenly human woman was completely different from the energy used by the other races in the primitive universe. It was not a type of divine power, but a completely new type of energy. However, this kind of energy gave Lu Ming a very terrifying feeling. Lu Ming involuntarily assumed a defensive posture. The gale pearl in his hand spun rapidly, ready to draw out the power of the gale at any time. Done! At that moment, Yi Yu spoke again. She waved her hand and stopped the heavenly human woman. The heavenly human woman seemed to be afraid of Yi Yu. She immediately retracted her aura. Yi Yu looked at Lu Ming, and her expression returned to normal. You're very brave. She's never been small, Lu Ming said. Is that so? Yi Yu smiled and said, I won't make things difficult for you. However, this team can no longer accommodate you. You can go. You'll be on your own for this mission. Young Master Yi Yu. The heavenly human woman wanted to say something, but was stopped by a look from Yi Yu. Lu Ming was also a little surprised. He did not expect her to let him go. He thought that he would have to go through a big battle. Lu Ming looked at the 4 figures shrouded in the power of dreams. He was still unwilling to give up. He wondered if Autumn Moon was among them. Suddenly, Lu Ming's heart skipped a beat. Ladies, I'd like to inquire about a place. I wonder if you've heard of the Divine Wilderness? Lu Ming wanted to test them with words. As he spoke, Lu Ming stared at the 4 women's reactions. The Divine Wilderness was, of course, the Divine Wilderness Continent. The Divine Wilderness Continent was just an inconspicuous continent in the Yuan realm. It was impossible for anyone present to have heard of it. The only one who had heard of it was Autumn Moon. If Autumn Moon was really among the 4, she would definitely have a reaction after hearing what he said. Unfortunately, Lu Ming was disappointed. The 4 women did not have any reaction. I don't know. One of the women shook her head. Her voice was very pleasant, but Lu Ming could tell that it was definitely not Autumn Moon's voice. The other 3 did not speak and only shook their heads slightly. Lu Ming was a little disappointed. Could it be that Autumn Moon was not among the 4? Mu Yin, young Master Yi, Yu has already given you a way out. Why aren't you scramming? Do you want to die? The heavenly human woman shouted coldly. Lu Ming glanced at her indifferently, then turned around and left very decisively. He guessed that Autumn Moon was not among the 4. Otherwise, they would have some reaction when they heard the words divine, wilderness. Lu Ming was very fast. In the blink of an eye, he had disappeared. Young Master Yi Yu, why did you let Mu Yin go? This person is arrogant just because he has some talent. I don't think we should let him go. The heavenly human woman said to Yi Yu, There's no hurry. Yi smiled and said, Mu Yin is very talented. He is definitely extremely rare among the major races in the primitive universe. If I can subdue him, it will be of great help to my position in the heavenly palace in the future. Oh, the princess wants to subdue Mu Yin. I see. The other heavenly human people nodded. That's right. Let him go first and let him suffer a little to wear down his spirit. When the time comes, I will subdue him. Yi Yu said. The competition in the heavenly palace was also very fierce. Although the heavenly palace was completely dominated by the heavenly human tribe, there were many important people who were also from the primitive universe. Some of them were extremely powerful and had a high position in the heavenly palace. These people often assisted the heavenly human tribe to gain power in the heavenly palace. Yi Yu naturally wanted to subdue some experts for his own use. If he could subdue a genius like Lu Ming and grow with him, he would definitely grow into a terrifying expert in the future. It would also be of great help to his position in the heavenly palace. With this in mind, he did not attack Lu Ming on the spot. Instead, he let Lu Ming go. If it were not for this, he would not have let Lu Ming go. He would have killed him on the spot. Let's go and find the Archean's secret skill. Yi Yu said and stepped forward. The others followed. Lu Ming's body was like lightning. Soon, he was tens of thousands of miles away. Acting alone is exactly what I want. Lu Ming was relieved. He was eager to act alone. Even if he found the Archean's secret skill with those people from the heavenly human tribe, it would not be his turn. He doubted it. Even if the other party did not let him go, he would find a reason to leave. Now was the perfect time. Chapter 41:21. If he acted alone, the treasures and secret techniques he obtained would belong to him. If he acted with the heavenly human tribe or the core disciples of the heavenly palace, he probably wouldn't have a chance to obtain the treasures and secret techniques. With the other party's domineering personality, it was very likely. According to the information, there are many ancient ruins in the core world of the ancient divine court. Many of the secret techniques are left in these ancient ruins, in the form of jade talismans or carved on some ancient stone tablets. Lu Ming recalled the information he read from the experts of the heavenly palace. If he wanted to find secret techniques, he would have to look for them in these ancient ruins. However, these ancient ruins were dangerous. There were some formations and traps, so it wouldn't be easy to obtain them. While thinking, he flew and searched for the ancient ruins. This world was very big. This could be seen from the secret technique runes outside. The runes with the 3,000 ancient secret techniques, as the core were each as big as a planet. With so many secret technique runes covering this world, it was obvious how vast this world was. Lu Ming flew for 3 days in a row, but he didn't encounter any creatures of this world. On the 4th day, Lu Ming finally saw a city. Looking from afar, all kinds of creatures went in and out of the city. It was very lively. Lu Ming narrowed his eyes slightly. After thinking for a while, he retreated. The creatures of this world hated the people of the Celestial Palace because the Celestial Palace had destroyed the archaic divine court. If he was discovered, there would definitely be a great battle. It would be troublesome. It was better not to contact the people of this world. Lu Ming went around the city and continued to search for the ruins. Without a target, searching blindly was no doubt very slow. After a month, Lu Ming finally found a place suspected to be a ruin. In the middle of a mountain, there was a valley. In the valley, there were many buildings. These buildings were very old. Most of them had collapsed, and only the ruins could be seen. It was obvious that this was an ancient ruin. Lu Ming was elated. After searching for such a long time, he finally found a legacy site. He wondered what kind of rewards he would reap. Lu Ming was full of anticipation. He landed and started to search slowly. However, it seemed that too much time had passed. Everything had decayed. Lu Ming looked around but found nothing. Some metals seemed to be intact, but when he reached out and touched them, they immediately turned to ashes. Some jade tablets and talismans were the same. Finally, Lu Ming came to the depths of the ruin and saw several huge stone tablets standing on the ground. Each of them was 100 feet tall. Lu Ming was delighted because he felt a trace of spirituality from these stone tablets. This meant that they hadn't decayed yet. This also proved that these stone tablets were extraordinary. According to clues, many secret techniques, even ancient secret techniques, were carved on these stone tablets. Back then, the Grand Ancient Divine Court had carved these secret techniques on stone tablets so that their disciples could study and cultivate them at any time. Lu Ming hurried over. However, his face sank right away. The stone tablets were full of carvings. They seemed to have been left behind by various attacks. They were messy and densely packed. The stone tablets were destroyed beyond recognition. Lu Ming observed carefully and concluded that the stone tablets should have some content. Now that they were destroyed, the content on the stone tablets could no longer be recognized. There are secret techniques on the stone tablets, but they were destroyed. Who did this? Lu Ming frowned. His face was a little ugly. Judging from the traces of destruction, it was very old. Many years had passed. It shouldn't be someone from the heavenly palace who came in this time. Lu Ming pondered and came to 2 conclusions. The first was that 500 years ago, someone from the heavenly palace found this place and recorded the secret techniques on the stone tablets. Then they erased the secret techniques on the stone tablets. The second was that the creatures of this world had erased the secret techniques here. Either way, Lu Ming found nothing. Lu Ming looked around carefully again. After confirming that he didn't find anything, he walked out in disappointment. It seemed that it would be difficult to get a big harvest this time. Lu Ming was hoping to find hundreds or thousands of ancient secret techniques. Then he would be rich. Now, it seemed that he was overthinking. It wouldn't be that easy. After all, too many years had passed. Suddenly, Lu Ming's heart skipped a beat. His eyes were like lightning as he looked ahead. In front of him, there was a group of creatures in human form. They were flying toward him quickly. With just a glance, Lu Ming knew that these people were from this world. Lu Ming turned around and left without thinking. The people of this world were hostile to the people of the heavenly palace. So many years had passed. Who knew what kind of experts there were? Lu Ming didn't want to be entangled. Unfortunately, it was too late. The other party had already seen Lu Ming. As soon as Lu Ming ran, the other party quickly chased after Lu Ming. Sure enough, Lu Ming frowned. He increased his speed and flew at high speed. But the other party also sped up and chased after him. Lu Ming's face darkened. "Do you really think I'm afraid of you?" Lu Ming said in his heart. His body suddenly stopped. Then, instead of advancing, he retreated. He activated the battle formula to increase his combat strength by 6 times. His body was covered in dazzling light as he punched out continuously. Boom, 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 streaks of terrifying fist energy pierced through the void and blasted towards those living beings. Given Lu Ming's current cultivation level, his prowess was simply too shocking and terrifying. The expressions of the living beings in this world changed drastically. "Be careful, hide behind me." One of the white-haired old men roared. His originally withered body quickly changed into a huge white ape. He waved his hands and held up a light screen, protecting him and the other creatures in the middle. Boom, 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 a series of explosions sounded. Lu Ming's fist energy bombarded the light screen held up by the white ape. The light screen kept shaking, and the white ape's body was also greatly shaken. He took a few steps back, but in the end he managed to block Lu Ming's fist energy. Divine Emperor, Level 1 Divine Emperor. Lu Ming's eyes flickered slightly. As soon as the white ape attacked, Lu Ming sensed that the other party was very powerful. He was in the Divine Emperor realm. If he was not in the Divine Emperor realm, he would definitely not be able to block Lu Ming's attack. However, the other party seemed to be having a hard time blocking it. Looks like the Divine Emperor realm is similar to the ones recorded in the books in the Heavenly Palace. A thought flashed through Lu Ming's mind. According to the information he had read, the Divine Emperor realm was much stronger than the Divine Emperor realm. Ordinary Divine Emperors would not be able to resist the Divine Emperor realm. They would only be killed instantly. Even some talented geniuses would find it difficult to fight against those who were in a higher realm. Only the most monstrous geniuses of the Divine Emperor realm could surpass the gap between their realms. For example, those who could fight against those who were in the Divine Emperor realm. Chapter 41:22. Only the strongest cultivators of the godly emperor layer who could fight against cultivators who were 4 levels stronger than them could fight against ordinary cultivators of the first great supreme god layer when they had the strength of the top of the 9th godly emperor layer. They couldn't defeat cultivators of the great supreme god layer. They could only resist them. They couldn't defeat cultivators of the great supreme god layer. That showed how big the gap was. In the godly emperor layer, a difference of 1 level was enough to kill a cultivator of the top of the 9th godly emperor layer. The gap between a great supreme god and a cultivator of the top of the 9th godly emperor layer was 4 whole levels. For divine emperors, one could imagine how big the gap between them was. That was why ordinary cultivators of the top of the 9th godly emperor layer were like babies when facing great supreme gods. They couldn't fight back at all. That was also why the candidates of the universe, young geniuses list, were all monstrous cultivators who could fight against cultivators who were 4 levels stronger than them. The candidates of the universe, young geniuses list could fight against ordinary great supreme gods when they had the strength of the top of the 9th godly emperor layer. That wasn't the case for great weapons. If those geniuses used great weapons, their fighting strength would be even more terrifying. Therefore, when Shui Tsangming from the Blood Clan participated in the Celestial Soldier exam, people thought he should have gone to the 3rd area instead of the 2nd area. Shui Tsangming was one of the candidates of the universe Young Geniuses list. He had the strength of the 7th godly emperor layer. He couldn't fight against great supreme gods on his own, but if he used great weapons, he could fight against great supreme gods. However, when Lu Ming was at the 7th level of the divine emperor realm, he was able to compete with an ordinary emperor god with his own combat power. He was able to gain a slight upper hand. "You're so strong!" After the giant white ape retreated, it widened its eyes and stared at Lu Ming in deep shock. A cultivator of the 7th godly emperor layer had managed to push him back. That was terrifying. He had never seen or even heard of someone like that. He had never seen someone like that in the ancient world. "Die!" shouted Lu Ming icily. His eyes were filled with murder. It was just an ordinary god emperor. Lu Ming was completely capable of dealing with it. If he used a great killing weapon, it wouldn't be difficult to kill it. Lu Ming had spent 100 years in the dark universe. He had turned what he had gained into strength. His fighting strength had skyrocketed. Unknowingly, ordinary cultivators of the 1st great supreme god layer were nothing in his eyes anymore. As soon as he finished speaking, the Gale Pearl appeared in his hand. He was ready to draw out the power inside and kill all of them. "Wait a minute, we mean no harm." The white ape roared. Yes. We have no ill intentions. Don't misunderstand." Behind the white ape, a young woman cried out. "No malice? Then why did you chase me just now?" Lu Ming said. He did not attack immediately. To be honest, he did not sense any killing intent from the other party. Ever since the other party had chased after him, he hadn't felt any killing intent from the other party. This was also the reason why Lu Ming did not continue to attack. "Young friend, it's a misunderstanding. You ran away as soon as you saw us. We thought that something had happened to you, so we subconsciously chased after you," the white ape said. "Yes, we chased you because we wanted to ask you why you ran away as soon as you saw us." "Wait, your aura!" As the young woman spoke, her eyes suddenly widened. She seemed to be very curious as she stared at Lu Ming. "Your aura. You're not a creature from the great ancient world," the young woman cried out in surprise. Her eyes widened as she stared at Lu Ming curiously. In an instant, Lu Ming's body emitted an extremely cold, killing intent. It seemed that the other party had seen through his identity. Their next step was probably to attack him. He was not the kind of person who would sit and wait for death. He planned to take the initiative to attack. "Wait a minute, we mean no harm to you." Sensing Lu Ming's murderous intent, the giant white ape yelled again. "Haha." Lu Ming would not believe it. The information given by the Heavenly Palace was very detailed. The creatures of this world hated the Heavenly Palace because the Heavenly Palace had destroyed the archaic divine court. 500 stellar years ago, the creatures of this world would kill anyone from the Heavenly Palace as soon as they saw them. How could they not mean any harm? Whoosh! Lu Ming drew out a gust of strong wind from the Gale Pearl. With Lu Ming's current cultivation, the strong wind he drew out from the Gale Pearl was many times more powerful than before. The strong wind whistled, and the void turned into chaos. The scene was extremely terrifying. The faces of the beings from the archaic world turned extremely ugly. "Back off!" The giant white ape roared. His expression was solemn because he could feel how terrifying the attack was. It could even threaten his life. He roared, erupting with all of his strength. He opened his mouth and roared. A shield flew out from his mouth. It was incomparably huge, blocking in front of him. At the same time, he pushed out his hands, and a light shield appeared in front of him. When he set up the shield, the strong wind had already swept over. Boom! 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 2 terrifying explosions sounded. The white ape's body shook violently and flew back. He fell heavily on the ground and spat out a mouthful of blood. After Lu Ming used the Gale Pearl, his strength had completely surpassed him. He was injured in one move. "No, I can swear on my life origin that we mean you no harm." The young woman's face turned pale, but she still stubbornly stepped forward and stared at Lu Ming. Oh, Lu Ming did not continue to attack. He stopped and said, "Okay, swear on your life origin." Lu Ming was not a bloodthirsty person. If the other party meant no harm, he would not kill the innocent. If they dared to swear on their life origin, it meant that they really meant no harm. Of course, if they did not dare, he would immediately attack without any mercy. "I swear. I can also swear." The creatures of the great ancient world did not hesitate. They all swore on their life origin that they meant no harm to Lu Ming. If they lied, their life origin would be destroyed immediately. Even the giant white ape swore an oath. They really swore. Lu Ming was puzzled. These people knew that he was from the outside world and meant no harm to him. It did not match the information given to them by the heavenly palace. However, if they could swear on their life origin, they would not be wrong. Lu Ming put away the Gale Pearl and withdrew his energy. There was another reason why he did not kill these people. It was too slow for him to find the relics here alone. It was like looking for a needle in a haystack. However, with the help of the people of this world, things would be much easier. Chapter 41:23. Seeing Lu Ming restrain his killing intent and aura, the giant white ape, the young woman, and the others secretly heaved a sigh of relief. Lu Ming had given them too much pressure just now. However, right away, the young lady blinked her eyes and sized Lu Ming up curiously. It was as if she was sizing up a rare treasure. After a while, she cautiously and softly said, Are you really from the outside world?" At the same time, the others also looked at Lu Ming curiously. "Yes, I'm not from this world." After a pause, Lu Ming said again, "Since you know I'm not from this world, don't want to kill me? You don't want to kill me?" Lu Ming asked the question that had been on his mind, because this did not match the information given by the heavenly palace. "Why would we want to kill you?" The young woman blinked and was even more confused than Lu Ming. The giant white ape pondered for a while and said, "According to the old legends, the ancestors of the archaic world and the outside world were irreconcilable enemies. The ancestors of the archaic world were all killed by creatures from the outside world. But that's just a legend, and we don't know if it's true or not. How could there be any hatred?" Lu Ming understood. Too much time had passed, a whole 500 stellar years. What did 500 stellar years mean? It was equivalent to a star going from birth to destruction 500 times. It was too long. After such a long time, everything had faded away, including the hatred between the heavenly palace and the archaic shrine. After such a long time, the archaic world had been passed down from generation to generation. They had long forgotten the hatred between the heavenly palace and the archaic shrine. Many people had not even heard of the hatred between the heavenly palace and the archaic shrine. Even if they had heard of it, they only treated it as a legend. Lu Ming knew that he was overthinking. It seemed that even if the creatures of the archaic world knew that they came from the outside world, they were just curious and did not hate them. Understanding this, Lu Ming lowered his guard a little. "My name is Sheng Qiao. What's your name?" At this time, the young woman became even bolder. She quietly walked up to Lu Ming and asked, "Mu Yin." Lu Ming said, "Mu Yin, how did you get in?" Legend has it that people from the outside world had only entered our world a very long time ago. I originally thought that it was just a legend. I didn't expect that there really was another world outside of our world. Xing Qiao felt that Lu Ming didn't have any killing intent, so he became even bolder. It was as if he had opened up a chatterbox, chattering away and asking several questions in a row. Miss, the giant white ape was worried that Lu Ming would turn hostile and attack him. Although he was a celestial arch and Lu Ming was only a celestial emperor, he still trembled with fear in front of a celestial emperor like Lu Ming. He didn't dare to lower his guard. I came here because I have a mission. I want to find some ancient ruins here. Can you take me there? I can give you a reward. Lu Ming stated his purpose of coming here. Looking for ancient ruins? No wonder you were there before. Leave it to me. I know many ancient ruins, but they might not have what you're looking for. Xing Qiao said, That's not a problem. Just take me there. Lu Ming said. They immediately set off. Xing Qiao, the giant white ape, and the others led Lu Ming to the next ancient ruin. Miss, is it okay for us to bring him along like this? After all, he's from the outside world. What if he has any ill intentions? The giant white ape secretly transmitted his voice to Xing Qiao. Don't worry, Uncle Yuan. I can feel that Mu Yin has no ill intentions towards us. He attacked us out of self-defense. Don't worry. I'm curious about what the outside world is like. I can ask him about it. Xing Qiao replied telepathically. The giant white ape sighed inwardly. He knew Xing Qiao's temper well. Once she made up her mind, it was hard to change it. He could only follow Xing Qiao closely. If Lu Ming had any ill intentions, he would fight Lu Ming with his life. Xing Qiao secretly chatted with the giant white ape for a while, then looked at Lu Ming and chatted with Lu Ming. She asked about the outside world. Lu Ming gave a brief introduction, even if it was just a casual introduction. Xing Qiao, the giant white ape, and the others were dumbfounded. The ancientness and vastness of the primitive universe made Xing Qiao and the others yearn for it. I didn't expect the outside world to be so vast. But why is it that no one from the ancient world has ever been able to leave? Even the most powerful great emperor can't break through the world barrier. Is it because our world is too inferior? Xing Qiao muttered to herself, unable to hide the loneliness in her voice. She wanted to go out and see the outside world. Unfortunately, the people of their world couldn't leave at all. Great emperor? Should be the great emperor? Lu Ming's heart skipped a beat. Then he chatted with Xing Qiao. It was different with someone leading the way. Soon they arrived at another relic. This relic was hidden underground. They entered without any hindrance. This made Lu Ming even more confused. According to the information given by the Heavenly Palace, these relics were filled with all kinds of formations and traps. It was very dangerous. Before they entered, the bigwigs of the Heavenly Palace had warned them to be careful. But now, Lu Ming had found 2 relic sites in a row without any hindrance. They didn't encounter any danger, nor did they see any formations or traps. It was very safe. However, just like the last relic, they didn't find anything after searching around. These relic sites are too old. Even if there was anything in them, it has been taken away or rotted away. There's nothing left. Xing Qiao said. Lu Ming was silent. He kept going deeper into the relic. In the depths of the relic, they found a secret chamber. It's like this again. The 4 walls of the secret chamber were full of scratches. It could be seen that there should have been something on the stone wall. There should have been some patterns or writings inscribed on it. However, all of them were destroyed. It was impossible to distinguish the original content of the stone wall. Lu Ming's face darkened. In 2 consecutive relic sites, he found stone tablets or walls that were suspected to have been inscribed with secret techniques. However, they were all destroyed and were a mess. There should be some writing on the stone wall. Why is it destroyed? Do you know who sabotaged this? Is it someone from the great ancient world? Lu Ming asked Xing Qiao and the others. I'm not sure. Shang Qiao shook her head and said, "In fact, it's not just here. Almost all the relics that are suspected to have been inscribed with patterns or writings have been destroyed." All the relics? Lu Ming was shocked. Chapter 41-24. Lu Ming was really shocked. According to Shang Qiao, all the relics that seemed to contain occult skills had been destroyed. Didn't that mean that their trip to the archaic world this time was in vain? They wouldn't be able to get anything? This situation was very different from the information given by the Heavenly Palace. Lu Ming knew that the Heavenly Palace sent people here 500 stellar years ago, but 500 stellar years had passed in the archaic world. After 500 stellar years of evolution, many things had changed greatly. It seemed that the information given by the Heavenly Palace was useless. They had to make new judgments based on the information they had now. "Can you take me to the next relic? I want to take a look." Lu Ming said. "Of course." Shang Qiao agreed readily. She couldn't wait to be with Lu Ming, not for anything else, but mainly because she could learn more about the outside world by being with Lu Ming. Even if she couldn't go out, she could at least listen. In the next 10 days, they went to 2 ancient relics in a row. These 2 relics had places that seemed to contain occult skills, but they were all destroyed. They couldn't see the contents at all. Who was the one who destroyed the contents of the book? Was it someone from the archaic world? Lu Ming couldn't help but ask again. "I don't think so. It said that the contents were destroyed a long time ago. However, some people speculate that the contents on these stone tablets and stone walls are witchcraft. They were destroyed by the people of the Sorcerer God Temple," Shang Qiao said. But before Shang Qiao finished, the expressions of the white ape and the others changed drastically. "Miss, please be careful with your words," the white ape said hurriedly. Its eyes darted around, looking very nervous. "Witchcraft? The Sorcerer God Temple?" Lu Ming was even more confused. These 2 words were not mentioned in the information given by the Heavenly Palace. The Heavenly Palace shouldn't have hidden anything from them, because it wouldn't benefit the Heavenly Palace. The Heavenly Palace's purpose in sending them to the archaic world was to search for occult skills. The more occult skills they found, the better it would be for the Heavenly Palace. Therefore, the Heavenly Palace wouldn't hide it from them. Since the Heavenly Palace wouldn't hide it from them, it meant that 500 stellar years ago, witchcraft and the Sorcerer God Temple didn't exist in the archaic world. This was a new development. "What are witchcraft and the Sorcerer God Temple?" asked Lu Ming. "Well," the giant white ape and the others hesitated. They seemed to be very afraid and did not dare to say anything. "Don't worry, I'll just to find out," Lu Ming said. "Don't worry, I'll just to give you an introduction." Shang Qiao was very brave. After telling the Heavenly Palaces to the Heavenly Palace, he began to explain. "Witchcraft is the attack, defense, speed, and so on that we practice. Legend has it that in ancient times there were a lot of witchcraft in these ruins. Unfortunately, they were all wiped out. Now, if anyone wants to practice witchcraft, they can only learn it from the Sorcerer God Temple." Shang Qiao explained. "Witchcraft? Is this occult skill?" Lu Ming's heart skipped a beat. "You used witchcraft when you fought with me?" asked Lu Ming. "Yes, what about it?" said Shang Qiao. Lu Ming was sure that the witchcraft Shang Qiao was talking about was occult skill, because what they used before was occult skill. "What's with the Sorcerer God Temple?" asked Lu Ming again. "The Sorcerer God Temple is the Sorcerer God Temple. Anyway, the archaic world is ruled by 2 Sorcerer God Temples. The Sorcerer God Temple controls all witchcraft. If anyone wants to practice witchcraft, they can only get it from the Sorcerer God Temple," said Shang Qiao. "The Sorcerer God Temple. Could it be that the occult skills in these ruins were all destroyed by the Sorcerer God Temple?" Lu Ming came to this conclusion. At first, he thought that these occult skills were destroyed by the people from the Heavenly Palace 500 years ago. He thought that the people from the Heavenly Palace had recorded them and then destroyed the occult skills to prevent others from knowing about them. However, he later refuted this speculation because Sheng Qiao said that all the occult skills in the ruins were destroyed. The Heavenly Palace clearly did not get all the occult skills back then. They only got a part of it. Otherwise, they would not have sent them here. Therefore, it was obvious that it was not the people from the Heavenly Palace who destroyed them. There was only one possibility: the Sorcerer God Temple. The Sorcerer God Temple destroyed all the occult skills in the ruins and then controlled all the occult skills. Controlling all the occult skills meant that they controlled the entire archaic world. If anyone wanted to practice the occult skills, they would have to get them from the Sorcerer God Temple. It seems that I have to get the occult skills from the Sorcerer God Temple if I want to get them. Lu Ming thought to himself. He then asked Sheng Qiao for more information about the Sorcerer God Temple. There were 2 Sorcerer God Temples in the archaic world. One was the Great Sorcerer God Temple, and the other was the Ancient Sorcerer God Temple. It was obvious that they separated the word archaic from the archaic celestial court and used one word each. According to Sheng Qiao's introduction, the 2 Sorcerer God Temples were hostile to each other. For countless years, they had been fighting and killing each other for the control of the archaic world. However, the 2 Sorcerer God Temples were equal in strength. They each occupied half of the archaic world. After so many years of fighting, there was no clear winner. The area they were in now was the territory of the Ancient Sorcerer God Temple. It was ruled by the Ancient Sorcerer God Temple. Mu Yin, you came to this world to get the occult skills, right? You can come back with us to West Raven City. Soon, the Sorcerer God Temple's sorcerer emissary will descend on West Raven City and pass down a part of the occult skills. You might be able to get something then. Sheng Qiao invited. The giant white ape was anxious. It secretly warned Sheng Qiao not to bring Lu Ming back, so as to avoid trouble. However, Sheng Qiao ignored it. Sure, of course I can. Lu Ming pondered for a moment and nodded in agreement. During this time, they had met other people from the archaic world on the way. When they saw Lu Ming, they quickly realized that Lu Ming was not from this world. However, they were not hostile and did not have the intention to attack Lu Ming. They just looked at him curiously. This made Lu Ming certain that the people of this world were not hostile to the Heavenly Palace. They treated the events of ancient times as legends. Therefore, Lu Ming could go to the cities of this world without worry. However, Lu Ming still asked Sheng Qiao and the others if there was any way to hide his outsider's aura. He did not want to be surrounded by people wherever he went. There's a kind of occult skill that can let you emit some of this world's aura. However, the effect is limited. Once you attack or meet someone with a higher cultivation than you will be easily seen through. Sheng Qiao said, It's okay. It's good that you have it. I can exchange it with treasures. Lu Ming said hurriedly. Chapter 41:25. It was better than nothing. He did not need to be surrounded by a group of curious onlookers wherever he went. There's no need for an exchange. It's not too precious. I'll give it to you for free. Sheng Qiao took out a jade talisman and handed it to Lu Ming. Thank you very much. Lu Ming did not stand on ceremony. He took it and scanned it with his spiritual sense. He already understood the contents of the jade talisman. It was indeed an ordinary secret technique. This secret technique did not change his aura. It was just a disguise technique. It drew in the external power of this world and covered his body with it. It could be used as a disguise to a certain extent. If one's cultivation base was lower than his, it would be difficult to tell without careful observation. Even if one's cultivation base was higher than his, it would not be by much. Without careful observation, it would not be easy to tell. However, once he attacked and his aura erupted, his disguise would be useless. It was better than nothing. Immediately, Lu Ming began to comprehend it. In just an hour, Lu Ming had successfully comprehended it. He activated the secret technique, and a force from the space was drawn over by him. It covered his body and concealed his original aura. How did he master a sorcery technique so quickly? What kind of speed is that? Xing Qiao, the giant white ape, and the others stared at Lu Ming with their mouths agape. They had never seen anyone master a sorcery technique so quickly, even though it was only a low-level sorcery technique. Naturally, they did not know how terrifying Lu Ming's comprehension was. They did not know how many secret skills Lu Ming had cultivated. There were a total of 5,000 types of ordinary secret skills and other ancient secret skills. To Lu Ming, cultivating ordinary secret skills was a piece of cake. It was very easy for him to reach the entry level. He could do it within an hour. Of course, it would still take some time to cultivate them to greater mastery. Let's go, Lu Ming said. At that moment, Sheng Qiao and the others came to their senses as if they had just woken up from a dream. After that, they did not continue to the other ruins. Instead, they went to West Raven City together. West Raven City was considered a top-tier city in the territory ruled by the ancient Sorcerer Temple. There were only 13 top-tier cities like this in the entire ancient Sorcerer Temple. West Raven City was very prosperous. Countless creatures lived there. People came and went on the streets. However, Lu Ming discovered that there were very few people with higher cultivation than him. He walked around the streets a few times but didn't find many. Moreover, these few people with higher cultivations than him wouldn't stare at him specifically, so they wouldn't easily discover that he wasn't from the Archean world and had come from the outside world. As for Emperor God experts, there were even fewer of them. They were extremely rare. For example, the giant white ape was already one of the top powerhouses in West Raven City. The Sheng family was one of the 3 great families in West Crow City. They were very powerful and occupied a large area with many palaces. Lu Ming told Xing Qiao not to make a fuss. So, when they arrived at the Sheng residence, Sheng Qiao arranged a courtyard for Lu Ming. It was very quiet and no one would disturb them. Lu Ming stayed for the time being. In a secret chamber in the Sheng residence, several elderly figures were discussing matters. One of them was the giant white ape. The other 7 were the senior members of the Sheng family. One of them was the patriarch of the Sheng family, Sheng Qiao's grandfather. The others were the grand elders of the Sheng family. Each of them was a celestial emperor. What? Someone from the outside world? After hearing the white giant ape's report, the others were all shocked, their faces filled with shock. That's right. It's true. The young mistress has invited that person back to the Sheng family. He is staying in the courtyard on the west side. The white ape said, I didn't expect it. I really didn't expect the legend to be true. There really is a bigger world outside our world, one of the old grand elders sighed. Tell us about your encounter with that outsider, the patriarch of the Sheng family said. Immediately, the white ape told them about their encounter with Lu Ming, as well as Lu Ming's purpose in coming to this world. You're saying that he is only a 7th-level godly emperor, but his combat ability is above yours. The patriarch of the Sheng family and the others were dumbfounded. They couldn't believe it. They knew very well how far a 7th-level godly emperor was from Emperor God. They had never dreamed that someone could cross such a long distance to fight. According to legends, the outside world is more advanced than the great ancient world. There are more strong cultivators, and their legacies are longer. There are as many geniuses as there are clouds. It seems that it's true. Our great ancient world has never had a genius like that. We don't even have half as strong as him, let alone close to him. The outside world is really terrifying. The patriarch of the Sheng family sighed. Patriarch, it's been a long time, and no one from the outside world has come here. This time they suddenly came. I don't know if it's a blessing or a curse. Now that the young mistress has invited them to the Sheng family, I'm not sure. patriarch of the Shang family has to decide. The ancestors of the outside world and the great ancient world have a great grudge against each other, but it's been a long time and the grudge is long gone. Moreover, they seem to have come here for witchcraft. I don't think we need to make a big fuss. It won't be long before the emissary of the shaman god's temple will descend to West Raven City and bestow a new shaman art. After the ceremony is over, we'll report the situation of the outside world to the shaman god's temple and let them make the decision. The patriarch of the Shang family said, "You're right, patriarch." The others nodded. Of course, there was another reason why they didn't dare to act rashly: Lu Ming's strength. According to the giant white ape, Lu Ming was able to suppress the giant white ape by a little with his own combat ability. However, Lu Ming still had a trump card that he hadn't used yet. The white ape said that Lu Ming's trump card was very powerful. If he used it, he wouldn't have a chance to survive. The trump card he was talking about was naturally the Gale Pearl. In the following days, Lu Ming lived a carefree life. Xing Qiao came to him every day to ask about the outside world. Lu Ming could only talk about a few things and deal with it. Fortunately, Lu Ming had seen a lot along the way. Xing Qiao was envious of him and looked forward to it. At first, Lu Ming wanted to see if he could buy some secret techniques in West Crow City. However, he soon learned that witchcraft was taboo in the great ancient world. It couldn't be bought or sold. If the witch god temple found out, it would be dangerous. Shang Qiao had already violated the taboo by giving Lu Ming the secret technique to hide his aura. The white ape wanted to stop it. However, this secret technique was only a low-level one. It was insignificant and didn't have much use. That was why the white ape didn't stop it in the end. Of course, if it was some other useful secret technique, Shang Qiao wouldn't dare to teach it even if he was brave. Secret techniques, or witchcraft, had to be approved by the witch god temple. Chapter 41:26. Time flew, and soon it was time for the emissaries of the ancient sorcerer temple to arrive. Today was the busiest day in West Raven City. The central square of West Raven City was packed with people and was very lively. The three patriarchs of West Raven City sat in 3 different areas. However, there was a seat in the middle that was left unoccupied. It was reserved for the emissaries of the sorcerer temple. Everyone waited quietly. About 2 hours later, suddenly a vortex appeared in the sky far away. The vortex emitted a dazzling light, and then one figure after another appeared. There were a total of 8 figures of different ages. Some were old and some were young. They wore clothes of different colors, but their faces were cold and arrogant as if they were looking down on the world. The emissaries are here. Go and welcome them. Quick! The experts of the 3 patriarchs did not dare to delay and quickly flew to the front of the 8 emissaries. The Shang family of West Raven City respectfully welcomes the 8 emissaries. The Wang family of West Raven City respectfully welcomes the 8 emissaries. The Niu family of West Raven City respectfully welcomes the 8 emissaries. The experts of the 3 patriarchs bowed respectfully. The 3 patriarchs need not be so courteous. An old emissary of the sorcerer temple waved his sleeves and said indifferently, "Emissaries, please take your seats." The patriarch of the Shang family quickly said, "Please, please, please." The patriarchs of the other 2 families also quickly said. The experts of the 3 families welcomed the 8 emissaries to the central square and let them sit in the most dazzling seats. Then someone immediately served wine and delicacies to the 8 emissaries. Naturally, there were people who secretly offered gifts. Although the 8 emissaries were here to impart witchcraft, it did not stop them from receiving some benefits and enjoying themselves. After 3 rounds of wine, the banquet finally ended. All right, let's begin the witchcraft teaching. Let the youths of West Raven City come up and see who is fated with witchcraft. The one who spoke was the old emissary of the sorcerer temple. Yes, The patriarchs of the three families quickly responded and immediately passed down the order. Immediately, a large group of youths flew up and arrived in front of the emissaries of the Sorcerer Temple. There were the youths of the three families and the young prodigies of other forces in West Raven City. This time, they were mainly here to impart secret techniques to the youths. Xing Qiao also went up. Lu Ming sat below and watched with curiosity in his eyes. What a strange race! What race are these messengers from the Sorcerer Palace? Lu Ming was very curious. This was because Lu Ming could not identify the races of the 8 messengers of the Sorcerer God Temple. Although they were in human form, their auras were very unique. Lu Ming had never seen them before. He felt that the 8 envoys of the Sorcerer God Palace were not living beings, but it didn't seem like a metallic life form. It was very strange. Lu Ming watched quietly. At this moment, the discussion on the imparting of witchcraft had already begun. The old messenger of the Sorcerer God Temple took out a statue. Then, all the young people knelt down respectfully in front of the statue with pious looks on their faces. Suddenly, the statue lit up and a ball of light flew out from within. It was the size of a longan fruit and flew towards one of the young men. It entered the young man's forehead and disappeared. The young man was overjoyed and bowed respectfully to the statue. As for the experts of the Niu family, a smile appeared on their faces. Obviously, that young man was from the Niu family and had already obtained the witchcraft. However, this was not the end. Following that, a few more balls of light flew out from the statue and flew towards a few young men. They flew into their forehead and disappeared. Obviously, those balls of light were witchcraft. Each ball of light represented a type of witchcraft. This is a type of spiritual imprint, Lu Ming whispered. After careful observation, he realized that those balls of light were very similar to spiritual imprints. It was reasonable for a spiritual imprint to contain a type of secret technique. The imparting of witchcraft was that simple. After that, balls of light flew out from the statue continuously. In the end, a total of 108 balls of light flew out, representing 108 types of witchcraft that had been imparted. However, there were more than 108 young people present. Naturally, many of them had not obtained the witchcraft imparted to them. Some of the young people had obtained more than one type of witchcraft imparted to them. For example, Sheng Qiao had obtained 3 types of witchcraft. This was very enviable. Those who did not obtain the witchcraft were very upset. All right, the imparting of witchcraft is over. We should leave. The old messenger of the Sorcerer Shrine took the statue and announced the end of the ceremony. Farewell, messengers! Immediately, a sound like a tsunami was heard in the plaza. The 8 messengers were expressionless. They nodded indifferently and turned around to leave. However, before they left, the old messenger glanced at Lu Ming. Then he turned around and continued walking. In the blink of an eye, he had disappeared from the plaza. What did that glance mean? Lu Ming's spiritual sense was extremely sharp. He had noticed that the old messenger had glanced at him. Could it be that he has discovered that I am from the outside world? Lu Ming's heart stirred. That was very possible. The old messenger of the Sorcerer Shrine had a very high cultivation level. He was definitely an Emperor Supreme God. Moreover, he might not be an ordinary Emperor Supreme God. His secret technique could prevent others from detecting him, but it could not prevent the old man from detecting him. However, Lu Ming was not too concerned. He already knew that he would be discovered. After all, the people of this world were not hostile to them. After the messenger of the Sorcerer Shrine left, the crowd dispersed. Lu Ming returned to the courtyard of the Sheng family. How should I sneak into the Sorcerer Shrine? Lu Ming frowned as he pondered. It seemed that he had to go to the Sorcerer Shrine if he wanted to get a large number of secret techniques, even ancient ones. The secret techniques passed down by the Sorcerer Shrine today were just ordinary ones. Lu Ming guessed that there must be some ancient, secret techniques in the Sorcerer Shrine. However, they should be of a higher level. Lu Ming was thinking about how to get into the Sorcerer Shrine and get a large number of secret techniques. However, Lu Ming could not think of any effective way even after thinking for a while. I will read up on the information about the ancient world and the Sorcerer Shrine. After a few days, I will leave the Shung family and West Raven City. I will go to the Sorcerer Shrine alone and see if there is a chance. Lu Ming thought. After that, he went to look for Sheng Qiao to get some information about the ancient world and the Sorcerer Shrine. In the blink of an eye, it was late at night. Who is it? Suddenly, Lu Ming opened his eyes. They shone in all directions, aiming at a dark void. Whoosh! As soon as Lu Ming finished speaking, the void rippled. A pitch-black sword light shot out and pierced between Lu Ming's eyebrows at an astonishing speed. Chapter 41:27. A pitch-black sword light moved towards Lu Ming's third eye. It was extremely fast, and under the cover of the night it was deadly. You want to die. There was a cold, murderous intent in Lu Ming's eyes. He had sensed that the enemy had the strength of the top of the 9th Godly Emperor layer. A cultivator of the top of the 9th Godly Emperor layer could easily kill a cultivator of the 7th Godly Emperor layer. But the enemy had bumped into Lu Ming. Lu Ming's expression was calm. He stretched out 2 fingers and pinched the pitch-black sword gleam accurately. Then a silhouette appeared. He couldn't believe his eyes. He hadn't thought that Lu Ming would be able to block his attack so easily. It's you. Lu Ming was stupefied. His eyes were filled with murder. Lu Ming had seen the assassin before. It was one of the 8 envoys of the Shaman Shrine. Hadn't he left already? He hadn't thought he'd come back to kill Lu Ming. Tell me, why do you want to kill me? Asked Lu Ming icily. People from the outside world should die. Die. The emissary of the sorcerer god temple shouted coldly. His body changed rapidly and turned into a pitch-black sword gleam. The sword aura soared to the sky, and it was more powerful than before. That's a secret technique? Lu Ming was stupefied. He was really stupefied because the enemy had turned into a secret technique. Indeed, the enemy's real body was a secret technique. A secret technique could turn into a living being. Lu Ming had never heard of such a thing. Suddenly, Lu Ming had an idea. The Heavenly Palace had told him that 500 years ago, the secret techniques of the ancient world had already gained sentience. That was why the deity emperors were sent here. Because the great ancient secret technique could sense the presence of great ancient divine emperors. It would be very difficult to find them, since the ancient secret techniques could give birth to sentience 500 solar years ago. It wasn't impossible for the ancient secret techniques to become sentient beings after 500 solar years. It was even possible for ordinary secret techniques to gain sentience. The reality was right in front of him. The black sword light in front of him was a secret technique. Moreover, it was only an ordinary secret technique. Clang! Just as Lu Ming was in a daze, the black sword gleam had already pierced Lu Ming's glabella. There was a sound of metal colliding and sparks were flying everywhere. However, it did not even break through Lu Ming's skin defense. How is that possible? The enemy's voice came from the black sword light. I'll give you a way out. Lu Ming came to his senses and grabbed the black sword light with his hand. The forbidden force was activated, and the powerful force caught the black sword light. Then he squeezed it hard. With a bang, the black sword light exploded. In the next moment, a rune fell on Lu Ming's palm. This is a secret technique rune. Lu Ming's eyes widened, and he was even more surprised. However, after taking a closer look, Lu Ming found that it was indeed a secret technique rune. The other party's spiritual intelligence had completely disappeared. Lu Ming had obliterated it. Could this secret technique rune directly fuse with his cells? Lu Ming had this thought, but now wasn't the time to test it because the enemy still had people. Since you're here, do you think you can leave? Lu Ming shouted coldly and took a step forward. In the next moment, he rushed into the vast night sky. He reached out his hand and grabbed at the night sky. The night sky exploded. In the next moment, Lu Ming retracted his hand, and in his palm he had caught a small snake. This small snake wasn't a real life of flesh and blood. It was also a secret technique. The enemy's form seemed to be the form of this secret technique. For example, if a secret technique could condense a small snake with a single strike, then the form of the secret technique would be a small snake, just like in front of him. Speak, why do you want to kill me? Lu Ming asked coldly. Because you're from the outside world. The outside world and the great ancient world are mortal enemies. Since I saw you, I had no choice but to kill you. The small snake roared and struggled with all its might, wanting to rush out. It seems that the ordinary creatures of the great ancient world have forgotten their grudges. But it seems that they haven't forgotten about these secret techniques. Lu Ming thought to himself. Then he clenched his fist and the small snake exploded, turning into a secret technique rune and falling into Lu Ming's hand. To think that I would get the secret technique rune directly by killing the creatures formed from these secret techniques. Lu Ming couldn't help feeling a fire burning in his heart. If these secret technique runes could be directly fused into his cells, wouldn't that mean that Lu Ming didn't even need to cultivate and could directly control them? If that was really the case, wouldn't he be rich? Whoosh, whoosh, whoosh. That was when several figures flew out from the depths of the Shang residence. They were elders of the Shang family, and all of them had powerful auras as god emperors. One of them was the giant white ape from before. Brother Mu Yin, it's you. The giant white ape exclaimed softly, Senior Yuan. Lu Ming nodded. Patriarch, everyone, let me introduce you. This is Mu Yin. Mu Yin, this is the patriarch of the Shang family, and the other elders. The giant white ape introduced them. Greetings, Patriarch Shang, seniors, Lu Ming bowed. Come to think of it, he hadn't met the patriarch since he came to the Shang family. What happened just now, Brother Mu Yin? The patriarch of the Shang family asked. A few rascals tried to ambush me, but I've taken care of them. Lu Ming said, but didn't directly say that the envoys of the witch god temple ambushed him. Is that so? The patriarch of the Shang family and the others appeared puzzled. Why would anyone ambush Lu Ming in the Shang family? Everyone, it seems that someone is being unfriendly to me. I shouldn't stay here. I'll take my leave. Lu Ming offered a fist palm salute and turned to leave, vanishing into the night sky. He stayed because he didn't want to implicate the Shang family. He had a good impression of the Shang family and didn't want to implicate them because of Shang Qiao. Soon, Lu Ming left the Shang residence and disappeared outside West Crow City. It seems that the 8 envoys of the witch god temple didn't leave. I wonder where the other 6 are. Let's see if the secret runes work. With that thought, Lu Ming took out the 2 secret runes he just obtained. With a grasp of his palm, the 2 runes melted into his palm and disappeared. They really fused into my cells. Lu Ming's eyes lit up. He realized that the 2 secret runes had fused into 2 different cells. Let's see if it works. Lu Ming waved his hand, and a pitch-black sword light appeared in the sky, slashing out violently and cutting the air in half. Then, a giant serpent darted out, shattering the air. It really works. Lu Ming showed a look of wild delight. Chapter 41:28. Lu Ming tried the 2 secret skill talismans and realized that they were both useful. He could use them freely as if they were his own. Lu Ming was overjoyed. As long as he could kill these creatures, he would be able to obtain more secret skill talismans. especially ancient secret skills. If he could obtain the ancient secret skill talismans, how much time could he save? How many merit points could he save? Thinking of this, Lu Ming's heart was burning with excitement. Sorcerer God Temple, since you want to kill me, don't blame me for being ruthless. A cold light flashed across Lu Ming's eyes. He then turned into a beam of light and flew towards a direction. This was the direction of the ancient Sorcerer God Temple. It was also the direction where the 8 messengers had left. Since the ancient Sorcerer God Temple had sent 2 messengers to assassinate him, the other 6 messengers should not have gone far. It was highly possible that they were waiting for news somewhere. Lu Ming flew quickly and spread out his spiritual sense to search for the remaining 6 messengers. Lu Ming did not fly far before his spiritual sense sensed that there were 6 messengers sitting cross-legged on a mountain peak in front of him. They were the 6 messengers from the Sorcerer God Temple. Swoosh! When Lu Ming's spiritual sense sensed them, the old messenger opened his eyes abruptly. His gaze was as sharp as a sword as he looked at Lu Ming. This brat is not dead yet. How dare he take the initiative to attack us? He's courting death. The old messenger's cold voice sounded, startling the other 5 messengers. Lord Divine Magus, what's going on? The other 5 messengers were still confused. That brat from the outside world is here. Get ready to fight. The old messenger of the Sorcerer God Temple said coldly. As soon as he finished his words, he soared to the sky and dashed in Lu Ming's direction. The other 5 messengers were shocked. Without hesitation, they followed the old messenger and rushed towards Lu Ming. In a few breaths' time, the 2 parties met. 6 pairs of sharp eyes landed on Lu Ming. There was a hint of curiosity and murderous intent in their eyes. Brat, where are the 2 messengers from the Sorcerer God Temple? The emissary of the Sorcerer Palace shouted. Since you want to kill me, you naturally have to pay the price. Lu Ming said coldly. In other words, the 2 of them had already paid the price. Brat, you're courting death. The old messenger of the Sorcerer God Palace was filled with killing intent. You're the ones courting death. I didn't provoke you, but you came to provoke me. Lu Ming shouted coldly and used the Greater God Wind technique. His body was like a phantom as he rushed towards the 6 messengers of the Sorcerer God Temple. Kill! Kill! The 6 envoys of the Sorcerer God Temple also attacked. Their bodies transformed into 6 different secret techniques and attacked Lu Ming. 5 cultivators of the top of the 9th Godly Emperor layer, 1 cultivator of the 1st Great Supreme God layer. The moment the other party attacked, Lu Ming was able to determine the other party's cultivation. The old envoy was the strongest. He had the strength of the 1st Great Supreme God layer. The other 5 cultivators had the strength of the top of the 9th Godly Emperor layer. Boom! 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 Lu Ming threw out punches continuously. More than 10 fist forces penetrated the void. The scene was extremely terrifying. The 6 envoys of the Sorcerer God Temple pulled a long face. Oh no, it's dangerous. Dodge! Shouted the 5 envoys of the 9th Godly Emperor layer. They didn't dare fight against Lin Feng. They wanted to dodge. However, with their cultivation levels, how could they dodge Lu Ming's attacks? The 5 messengers of the Sorcerer Divine Temple, who were at the peak of the 9th level Divine Emperor realm, were killed by Lu Ming and turned into 5 secret skill runes. Only the old envoy of the Sorcerer God Temple managed to block Lu Ming's attack, but he was also shaking. Your fighting strength. At that moment, the old envoy of the Sorcerer God Temple wasn't angry because the other 5 envoys had been killed. He was just astonished. He was astonished because of Lu Ming's fighting strength. He would have never thought that Lu Ming, a cultivator of the 7th Godly Emperor layer, could be so strong. His attacks could rival the old envoy of the Sorcerer God Temple, or even surpass him. That was terrifying. Die. Lu Ming shouted coldly. His body did not stop moving. The cells in his body were vibrating, emitting dazzling rays of light. Lu Ming activated his combat ability to the maximum and charged toward the elderly man from the Sorcerer Divine Temple. You want to kill me? Impossible. The old man from the Sorcerer God Temple roared. His actual body was a pitch-black divine pagoda. There were 9 light ribbons hanging down from it, suppressing Lu Ming. Its power was shocking. That was his real body. It was also a secret technique. Is that one of the 3,000 ancient secret techniques, the Great God Tower Technique? Lu Ming's heart stirred. Since he had the ambition to collect the various 3,000 ancient secret skills, he naturally had a detailed understanding of the 3,000 ancient secret skills. He knew that one of the 3,000 ancient secret skills was called the Great God Pagoda skill. When he used it, he could condense a tower to oppress his enemies. It was extremely powerful. However, the Great God Tower technique was just an ordinary one among the 3,000 ancient secret techniques. It was the same as the Great Breaking Technique. In the Merit Exchange Hall, it cost around 100,000 points. Lu Ming's eyes were twinkling. If it was really the Great God Tower technique, he would definitely get the talisman of that secret technique. Great Binding Technique. Lu Ming's entire body was shrouded in a dazzling glow. He pressed his palms forward and cast the Great Binding skill. An invisible force emerged and entangled the divine pagoda like a python. In that instant, the divine pagoda froze. What welcomed it was Lu Ming's storm-like attacks. Boom, boom, boom. Lu Ming increased his combat power to the maximum and bombarded the divine pagoda with both hands. In an instant, he attacked at least 100 times. The tower shook violently and was sent flying thousands of miles away. It crashed into a dozen mountains, and the 9 light belts on it became dim. The opponent was severely injured. How did you master so many ancient witchcraft? A shocked voice came from the tower. Ancient witchcraft? It's one of the 3,000 ancient secret techniques. Lu Ming's heart skipped a beat. Lu Ming had used at least 3 kinds of ancient mystic skills when he attacked just now. Obviously, the other party was very shocked. Soon, you will become one of my ancient witchcraft, Lu Ming said coldly and continued to attack the opponent. He realized that the opponent was slightly stronger than the giant white ape of the Sheng family. However, it was still not a match for Lu Ming. Even if he did not use any other powerful weapons, Lu Ming could still suppress the opponent. You monster! The ancient witch temple will not let you go. Before you came, I had already sent the news back to the witch temple. A loud roar came from the tower. Then it turned around and fled at an astonishing speed. It knew that it was no match for Lu Ming and wanted to escape back to the witch temple. There were many experts in the witch temple, and some of them could kill Lu Ming. However, how could Lu Ming let it escape? Chapter 41-29. Great Shift Art. Lu Ming's heart skipped a beat as he used the Great Shift Art. His body suddenly disappeared from the spot and appeared in front of the divine pagoda in the next moment, staring at it coldly. This is the top ancient witchcraft art, the Great Shift Art. How do you know it too? A shocked voice came from the divine pagoda. Other than the overall name being different, the specific name is the same. A thought flashed across Lu Ming's mind, but his body did not stop as he continued to attack the divine pagoda. Boom, boom, boom! Continuous explosions rang out as the divine pagoda shook violently. Then cracks appeared on it. The divine pagoda was still no match for Lu Ming. Not long after, the divine pagoda exploded and turned into a secret skill rune. However, this secret technique talisman still had its own consciousness and was still trying to escape. Clearly, its consciousness had not been completely destroyed. Swoosh! Lu Ming stretched out his big hand and grabbed it. The taboo power condensed into a big hand and grabbed the secret skill rune in his hand. Then, the taboo power seeped into it, wanting to obliterate the other party's spiritual intelligence. You'll die a horrible death. The ancient witchcraft shrine will not let you go. The divine pagoda roared and cursed angrily. Tell me, how many experts are there in the ancient witchcraft shrine? How many of them are like you, transformed by ancient witchcraft? Lu Ming asked. So what if I tell you, the ancient witchcraft shrine has 800 experts, transformed by ancient witchcraft. I'm the weakest among them. The others are all stronger than me. You'd better let me go, or you won't be able to escape death. A loud roar came from the divine pagoda. When the divine pagoda heard Lu Ming's question, he thought that Lu Ming was afraid. Naturally, he would not hide it and mentioned how many experts there were in the ancient witchcraft shrine, hoping to intimidate Lu Ming. Unfortunately, Lu Ming only wanted to ask and had no intention of letting the divine pagoda go. Boom! Lu Ming's taboo power completely destroyed the divine pagoda's spirituality, leaving behind a simple, secret skill rune. 800 living beings, transformed by ancient witchcraft. From what I heard, they should have reached the God Emperor realm. This is a terrifying force. It seems like I have to think about the witchcraft shrine. Lu Ming thought, 800 Emperor gods. This was definitely a terrifying force. Moreover, the strongest among them had a very high cultivation level. Although Lu Ming had powerful weapons such as the Gale Bead and the mysterious Ice Rod, it was impossible for him to contend with powerful Emperor gods. It was obviously impossible to charge into the ancient sorcerer shrine directly. That would be courting death. Moreover, the other party had already received the news. It would not be long before they would send a large number of experts to hunt him down. He needed to think carefully about what to do next. In the end, Lu Ming decided to stay in the vicinity of West Raven City and observe. He wanted to see if the experts sent by the ancient witchcraft shrine were strong. If they were too strong, he would not make a move. If they were not too strong, he would make a move and kill them. After making up his mind, Lu Ming flew toward West Raven City. Soon, West Raven City appeared in front of Lu Ming. Lu Ming did not plan to enter West Raven City. Instead, he found a secluded place to hide. Let's see if the ancient secret skill rune can be directly fused into my cells. Lu Ming thought, and a secret skill rune appeared in his hand. It was the secret skill rune of the Great God Pagoda technique. Lu Ming could not wait to try it out. He wanted to see if the ancient mystic skill runes could be integrated directly into his cells and be used by him. Without hesitation, Lu Ming directly fused the secret skill rune into a cell. Success! Lu Ming was overjoyed. The secret skill rune had successfully fused into his cell. Lu Ming could feel that as long as he thought about it, he would be able to operate it. But the next moment, Lu Ming frowned again. He realized that the level of mastery of the Great God Pagoda technique was not right. Previously, when he fused the secret skill runes of the ordinary secret skills into his cells, he directly reached the greater mastery stage. But now, Lu Ming could only unleash the power of the Great God Pagoda technique at the entry level. What's going on? Is it because the ancient secret skill is harder to cultivate? Or is it because the cultivation of the creatures created by the Great God Pagoda technique is not high enough? Lu Ming frowned and guessed, but he could not figure it out at the moment. He could only experiment after obtaining more secret skill runes. This is... Suddenly, Lu Ming's eyes widened. He had made a new discovery. The secret skill rune formed by the Great God Pagoda technique merged with his cells. All of a sudden, an extremely pure force permeated the air and instantly surged into all his cells. Lu Ming discovered that his taboo force had actually strengthened by a notch. It can also increase my cultivation. Lu Ming was a little surprised at first, then he was overjoyed. He realized that his cultivation level had increased. The distance between him and the 8th godly emperor layer was shortened. The ordinary secret skill runes did not have such benefits. Could it be that only the ancient secret skill runes had such benefits? Lu Ming could not help but feel even more excited. Just like that, Lu Ming waited there. In the blink of an eye, 3 days passed. Suddenly, Lu Ming's eyes flashed, and he quickly withdrew his qi, because a dozen figures had suddenly appeared in the void in front of him. Those silhouettes were standing in the void. They were wearing robes of different colors and emitted powerful qi. Their qi was very similar to that of the old man from the sorcerer shrine, who was the creature created by the great god pagoda technique. They were all great supreme gods. There was a burning glow in Lu Ming's eyes. These 10 over-god thearchs were most likely evolved from the primordial secret skills. In Lu Ming's eyes, there were more than 10 primordial secret skills. As long as he could kill all of them, he would be able to master more than 10 primordial secret skills. However, Lu Ming was just thinking about it. He did not attack, because he did not know the exact cultivation level of those great supreme gods. If they only had the strength of the 2nd great supreme god layer, Lu Ming would be confident. With the 1st grade celestial armor, the Zephyr Pearl, and the mysterious ice rod, Lu Ming was not afraid of them. But if they had the strength of the 3rd great supreme god layer, it would be hard to say. Lu Ming did not know how big the gap was between each level of the great supreme god layer. The strongest person he had faced so far was only at the 1st great supreme god layer. He did not know how strong a 2nd great supreme god layer was. But the gap between each level of the great supreme god layer was definitely much greater than the divine emperor layer. Lu Ming estimated that even if he had the mysterious ice rod, he would not be able to defeat a 3rd great supreme god layer expert. And the 1st grade celestial armor could only block a 3rd great supreme god layer attack. Then what? He could only run for his life. Therefore, before he could figure out their cultivation level, Lu Ming did not plan to attack. Those great supreme gods of the sorcerer's shrine carefully looked around. Then their figures flashed, and they rushed into the West Raven City. Lu Ming guessed that they had gone to the Sheng clan to inquire about him. Chapter 4130. Lu Ming waited patiently for a while. Not long after, the envoys of the witch god temple left West Crow City and disappeared into the sky. After that, Lu Ming sneaked into West Crow City. He mainly wanted to see if the Sheng family was all right. After all, he didn't want to implicate the Sheng family. Fortunately, after entering West Crow City, he found that the Sheng family was fine. Lu Ming felt relieved and left West Crow City again. However, not long after Lu Ming left West Crow City, an unforeseen event occurred. Swish! The void split open and a snow-white blade light slashed towards Lu Ming's head. It was extremely powerful. At the crucial moment, Lu Ming burst out with his full strength. His body emitted a dazzling light as he punched out. Boom! There was a violent explosion. That snow-white blade light was blocked by Lu Ming. At the same time, 2 terrifying attacks came from Lu Ming's left and right. They attacked Lu Ming. Not only that, after the attacks from the left and right sides were launched, an attack also erupted from the back, crushing toward Lu Ming. Danger! Extreme danger! The attacks from the left and right were still fine. Lu Ming could still deal with them. He judged that the attacks from the left and right should be from someone in the 1st layer of the Great God Realm. However, the attack from behind was too powerful. It was extremely terrifying. It was much stronger than the attack from someone in the 1st layer of the Great God Realm. 2nd layer of the Great God Realm. Lu Ming judged that the attack from behind should be from someone in the 2nd layer of the Great God Realm. Lu Ming knew that with his own strength, he was definitely not a match for someone in the 2nd layer of the Great God Realm. He couldn't block it. However, Lu Ming had many treasures on him. With a thought, the 1st grade celestial armor on his body was activated. The The first-grade celestial armor emitted a layer of light, enveloping Lu Ming. Boom! 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 The attacks from the left, right, and back all landed on the first-grade celestial armor's light shield. With 3 consecutive explosions, the 3 attacks were blocked. They didn't break through the armor. However, the attack from behind was too powerful. Although it was blocked, there was still a terrifying force pushing Lu Ming forward. Lu Ming's body crashed into a middle-aged man in front of him. The middle-aged man spat out a mouthful of blood and was pushed back. Lu Ming flew out for a distance of hundreds of miles before he could stabilize himself. Swish, swish, swish. There were more than 10 figures around him, surrounding Lu Ming in the middle. These figures were none other than the sorcerer gods' temples, people who had appeared in West Crow City earlier. Brat, let's see where you can run to now. Swish, swish. Brat, tell me, where are your accomplices? Do you have any accomplices who came in with you? Teacher, tell me. Another voice sounded. It came from an old man with pitch-black skin and demonic chi all over his body. What a familiar aura. Lu Ming felt that the old man's aura was familiar. It was the same old man who had attacked him from behind. He was a second-layer Emperor God Realm cultivator. More importantly, the old man's aura reminded him of the great demonic sword technique. Could it be that this old man was the great demonic sword technique? How did you find me? Lu Ming didn't answer the old man's question. Instead, he asked another question. It's easy to find you. You have the aura of the outside world. As long as we can capture a trace of your aura, we can refine a tracking treasure. Finding you is easy. The dark-skinned old man, who seemed to be the great demonic sword technique, said coldly, "Could it be those secret techniques?" Lu Ming's heart skipped a beat. He recalled that there were some secret techniques among the 3,000 ancient secret techniques that were very good at tracking and capturing. Perhaps those secret techniques were the reason why they could find Lu Ming. Swish, I'll give you one more chance. Speak. Where is your partner? Also, how did you get in? Where is the entrance? If you tell me everything, I can leave you with a complete corpse. The dark-skinned old man was the great demonic sword technique. If you want to know, you'll have to defeat me first, said Lu Ming. Then, the zephyr bead appeared in his hand. After observing for a moment, Lu Ming realized that there were no stronger cultivators among those people. None of them had the strength of the 3rd great supreme god layer. The strongest one had the strength of the 2nd great supreme god layer. None of them had the strength of the 3rd great supreme god layer. Lu Ming was relieved. He wanted to try and see if he could kill all of them. Little boy, since you want to die, I'll help you. Attack and kill him. Leave his soul behind. Then, we'll find a way to know his secret. The great demonic sword technique waved his hand. Boom, boom, boom. More than a dozen people, more than a dozen ancient secret techniques, attacked at the same time. They transformed into different secret techniques and attacked Lu Ming. As expected, they're all ancient secret techniques. Lu Ming's eyes lit up. He activated the celestial soldier armor's defense and blocked all the attacks. Then, the zephyr wind inside the zephyr bead whistled and turned into a wind blade. Ah! A horrible shriek spread in the air. One of the ancient secret techniques exploded and turned into a talisman. A 1st great supreme god layer ancient secret technique was instantly killed by Lu Ming. Of course, he was instantly killed by the energy inside the zephyr bead. A part of it is missing. Lu Ming was startled. He had consumed a lot of energy from the zephyr bead. The zephyr wind inside the zephyr bead was being consumed at a speed visible to the naked eye. After all, the zephyr wind inside the zephyr bead was limited and could not be replenished, especially with Lu Ming's current cultivation level. Each time he used it, it consumed a lot of energy. If it continued like this, it would not last long. However, a great weapon was meant to be used. If it was not used at a critical moment, how could it be called a great weapon? Die! Shouted Lu Ming. He used the great divine wind technique to the maximum and used all his strength to draw the energy from the zephyr bead. Whoosh, whoosh, whoosh! The zephyr wind turned into a tornado. It whistled and swept towards the dozen ancient secret techniques. Although the tornado was not as powerful as the wind blade, it covered a large area. It could envelop all the ancient secret techniques. Those cultivators of the first great supreme god layer couldn't resist it. They were constantly attacked by the tornado and were severely injured. Even though the ancient secret techniques were not made of flesh and blood, they still contained life essence. At that moment, after being injured, their life essence was rapidly shrinking. Their chi was quickly weakening and their strength was rapidly decreasing. Among the dozen ancient secret techniques, there were only two that were relatively strong. One was the great demonic sword technique. He turned into a pitch-black demonic sword and slashed across the sky. Sword lights kept colliding with the tornado. At that moment, the tornado was blocked. As for the other person, it was hard to tell what kind of ancient secret technique he was using. He turned into a beam of light, and his power was terrifying. He could easily cut open the sky and block the tornado. Both of them had the strength of the second great supreme god layer. Chapter 40, 131. Only two of them had the strength of the second great supreme god layer, while the others had the strength of the first great supreme god layer. First great supreme god layer cultivators couldn't block the strong winds. As the power of a tornado weakened, Lu Ming pulled out another one. He did not feel the pinch at all. Even though he couldn't kill the cultivators of the first great supreme god layer instantly, he could make their injuries worse. Whoosh, whoosh, whoosh! Lu Ming continuously drew out 7 strong gusts of wind. Those first-level 1 Emperor God primordial secret skills were severely injured. Their auras were extremely weak. Die! Lu Ming shouted coldly. Every cell in his body was trembling. He activated his combat ability to the extreme. His body dashed out like a meteor. Boom! An ancient secret skill was blasted apart by Lu Ming, turning into a secret skill rune. Lu Ming grabbed it in his hand and put it into his storage ring. He had already obtained 2 ancient secret technique runes in a row. Lu Ming didn't stop. After killing one, he moved on to the next one. Those first-level Emperor God primordial secret skills were extremely weak after being severely injured. They could not withstand Lu Ming's attack at all. Lu Ming dashed forward and destroyed another ancient secret technique. It turned into a talisman and was put away by Lu Ming. Fast, too fast! Within a breath's time, Lu Ming destroyed 6 types of primordial mystic skills. At that moment, the remaining ancient secret techniques were panicking. Let's go. This little boy has a terrifying weapon. We have to send the news back. Retreat! Shouted the 2 cultivators of the second great supreme god layer. They ordered the others to retreat. However, how could Lu Ming let them retreat? Lu Ming used all his strength to summon the energy in the Zephyr Pearl and create a barrier around him to prevent the ancient secret techniques from retreating. Boom, boom, boom. The 2 cultivators of the second great supreme god layer were really strong. They were much stronger than the cultivators of the first great supreme god layer. They weren't injured at all. When their attacks landed on the barrier, it shook violently and a crack appeared. However, the cultivators of the first great supreme god layer weren't that strong. They couldn't break the barrier at all. Lu Ming didn't stop attacking. Each time he flickered, a cultivator of the first great supreme god layer would be destroyed and turn into a talisman, which fell into Lu Ming's hand. After a while, the remaining cultivators of the first great supreme god layer were all killed by Lu Ming. At that moment, the 2 cultivators of the second great Supreme God Layer had already broken the barrier and were flying away. You want to leave? Lu Ming's gaze was cold, and there was a strange fluctuation in his body. The next moment, his figure disappeared from the spot. It was the transference skill. In the next moment, he appeared in front of the great demonic sword art. The Zephyr Pearl whistled and turned into a wind blade, attacking the great demon sword technique. Demonic sword rampage, break for me! Shouted the great demon sword technique. His sword became 10,000 zhang long and slashed at the wind blade. Boom! When the two attacks collided, an earth-shattering boom erupted, and a terrifying shockwave was stirred up. Then the gale wind blade collapsed. However, the demon sword was also shaken violently and was blown away. A hideous wound appeared on the sword. It had been cut by the Zephyr Wind Blade. Lu Ming still had the upper hand in the collision between the two. The cultivator of the second great Supreme God Layer is really strong. I can't compete with him. I'll be killed instantly, a thought flashed across Lu Ming's mind. He could defeat an ordinary cultivator of the first great Supreme God Layer. But the difference between the first great Supreme God Layer and the second great Supreme God Layer was too big. The difference between the two layers of the Godly Emperor layer was huge. A cultivator of a higher layer could easily kill a cultivator of a lower layer. However, the difference between the two layers of the Great Supreme God Layer was even bigger. Originally, Lu Ming's Zephyr Pearl was much stronger than his own battle strength. However, in the Great Supreme God Layer, he couldn't fight across too much distance. He had only been able to suppress the Great Demon sword technique with his full strength. You can't kill me, shouted the Great Demon sword technique. He turned into a sword light and changed direction, flying away quickly. However, Lu Ming immediately used the Zephyr Wind blade to form a barrier, blocking the Great Demon sword technique. Don't try to stop me. Break, shouted the Great Demon sword technique. Sword light soared to the sky and slashed the Zephyr Wind blade. A crack appeared on the Zephyr Wind blade. However, at this moment, Lu Ming had already taken out a snow-white long rod. The Bingxian staff. The Bingxian staff consumed too much energy, so Lu Ming had been using the Zephyr Pearl instead of the Bingxian staff. However, it seemed like he couldn't stop his opponent without using the Bingxian staff. As soon as the Bingxian staff appeared, it expanded rapidly like a mountain and pressed down on the Great Demon sword technique. The Bingxian staff was one of the 18 divine weapons of the Heavenly Court. It was a top-tier divine weapon in the universe. Under Lu Ming's taboo power, its power was shocking. It was definitely above the Zephyr Pearl. The Great Demon sword technique was shocked and showed fear for the first time. Not good, he still has a trump card, roared the Great Demon sword technique. Then he pushed his strength to the limit and even burned his life source. He was going all out. Swoosh! A shocking demonic sword soared to the sky and slashed at Lu Ming, colliding with the Bingxian staff. Whoom! Clang! A violent vibration sounded from the pitch-black demonic sword. The huge demonic sword vibrated violently. Then, fine cracks appeared on it. At the same time, the sword body was pushed back crazily. How is this possible? Said the Great Demon sword technique in disbelief. In that move, he felt that Lu Ming's strength had surpassed his by a large margin. Nothing is impossible. Today you will die. Lu Ming said coldly. The Bingxian staff slammed down again. The sky was collapsing as a violent, destructive force swept out. The Great Demon sword technique had no way to escape. He could only face it head-on. With a boom, more cracks appeared on the Great Demon sword technique's sword body. In the end, it exploded with a bang. The Great Demon sword technique was severely injured. Only a secret rune was left floating in the air. It wanted to escape. However, Lu Ming grabbed the secret skill runes of the great demonic swordsmanship in his hands. No, you can't kill me, "If you kill me, the ancient sorcerer shrine will not let you go," roared the great demon sword technique. "You're saying that the ancient sorcerer shrine will let you go if I don't kill you?" Lu Ming smiled faintly. He had killed so many people. The ancient sorcerer shrine would definitely not let him go. There was no difference if he killed one less or one more. With a thought, he stored the runes of the great devil sword art into his storage ring. Then his silhouette flickered, and he disappeared from his original position. He chased after the other cultivator of the second great supreme god layer. However, after chasing him for a while, he didn't find any trace of him. Chapter 4132. Lu Ming used the great teleportation technique several times, but he couldn't find the other cultivator of the second great supreme god layer. Lu Ming knew that the other cultivator had already run far away. His fighting strength was limited, so it took him a long time to kill the cultivator of the second great supreme god layer. That time was enough for the cultivator of the second great supreme god layer to run far away. Besides, the other cultivator of the second great supreme god layer was like a beam of light. His speed was astonishing. Even if Lu Ming used the great teleportation technique with all his strength, he couldn't catch up with him. After all, his cultivation level was much higher than his. That was why Lu Ming had attacked the first cultivator of the great demon sword technique and not the other one. If he had attacked the other one at the beginning, the two cultivators of the second great supreme god layer wouldn't have been able to escape. If one of them escapes, the ancient sorcerer shrine will definitely take revenge. From what they've said, there must be even stronger cultivators in the ancient sorcerer shrine. I have to become stronger, Lu Ming frowned while thinking. Through the exchange earlier, he finally knew how great the gap between each level of the God Emperor realm was. Even though he could kill a cultivator of the second great supreme god layer with a mysterious ice rod, he couldn't defeat a cultivator of the third great supreme god layer. Then the ancient sorcerer shrine would probably send cultivators of the third great supreme god layer to kill him. He had to become stronger as soon as possible. I have more than 10 talismans from the ancient sorcerer shrine. I wonder if they can help me break through to the next level, thought Lu Ming. Then his silhouette flickered and he left. After a short time, he found a secret place and punched a hole in the ground. He went deep into the ground and sat down cross-legged. After that, a talisman appeared in Lu Ming's hand. "Little boy, you're courting death. You better let me go, or the ancient sorcerer shrine won't let you off." As soon as he took out the talisman, a threatening voice emerged from it. Although Lu Ming had scattered the forms of more than 10 ancient mystic skills, their spiritual intelligence was still present and they had not been obliterated. "You talk a lot of crap," Lu Ming said coldly. He held the secret technique rune in his hand. Forbidden power poured into it and began to erase the intelligence inside. "No, I beg you, spare me." "Ah, spare my life. I have experienced countless years before I was able to gain sentience. I have gone through untold hardships to cultivate my body. I beg you to spare me." Seeing that his threat had failed, the other party began to beg for mercy. However, Lu Ming couldn't be bothered with him at all. He was controlling the forbidden power with all his might to obliterate his opponent's consciousness. The other party's cries became softer and softer, and soon there was no movement at all. The other party's intelligence had been completely wiped out by him. Let's test the effect. Lu Ming held the secret technique rune. With a thought, the secret technique rune merged with one of Lu Ming's cells. Immediately, Lu Ming had a feeling that this ancient secret technique had already been grasped by him. There was one more ancient mystic skill that Lu Ming had mastered. However, Lu Ming tested it out and found that his mastery of this ancient secret technique was only at the beginner level. It was the same as the great divine pagoda technique. However, a gush of pure energy emanated from that cell and surged into his entire body. Lu Ming's cultivation level increased rapidly. Very soon it increased by a notch. Sure enough, the secret technique rune of the ancient secret technique can increase my cultivation base. Lu Ming was overjoyed. Then, Lu Ming took out another secret technique rune. Ignoring the other party's cries and roars, he used the same trick again to obliterate his opponent's intelligence and merge it with his cells. Immediately, another power surged out, increasing Lu Ming's cultivation base a little. In this way, Lu Ming continued to obliterate the secret technique rune's intelligence and merge it with his cells. Finally, it was the Great Devil Sword Technique's turn. However, Lu Ming held the secret technique rune of the Great Devil Sword art in a daze, because he already had the Great Devil Sword art and had cultivated it to the great success level. Could he still merge this secret technique rune? Lu Ming wasn't sure. However, how could he be satisfied if he didn't try? Lu Ming put the secret technique rune of the Great Devil Sword art into a cell. However, there seemed to be a strong repulsive force in that cell that repelled the secret technique rune. Sure enough, it couldn't merge. It seemed that his body could only allow one secret technique to merge with his cells. It was impossible to fuse the same secret technique into different cells. Wouldn't it be a waste? Lu Ming frowned. This secret technique rune was left behind by a second-layer Great God Realm expert. It would be of great help to him. He was unwilling to waste it. I wonder if I can merge it into the same cell? Suddenly, Lu Ming's eyes lit up as an idea popped into his head. If he couldn't merge it into different cells, he could at least merge it into the same cell. Thinking about that, Lu Ming moved the secret technique rune towards the cell that had already merged with the Great Devil Sword art. To Lu Ming's surprise, it went very smoothly this time. The secret technique rune of the Great Devil Sword art merged with the cell and disappeared. Then, an incomparably pure energy gushed out. Lu Ming's cultivation started to increase rapidly. After a short time, it stopped. Top of the 7th Godly Emperor layer. Unfortunately, I'm still a bit away from breaking through. Lu Ming frowned. His cultivation had stopped at the top of the 7th Godly Emperor layer. He couldn't break through to the 8th Godly Emperor layer. If I had a few more secret technique runes, I might have been able to break through, thought Lu Ming. Then he sensed the Great Devil Sword art and found that it hadn't changed. When he used it, it didn't become stronger either. It seemed that merging with the secret technique rune of the Great Devil Sword art didn't give him any other benefits. It's been a while. I'm sure the ancient sorcerer shrine has already started taking action. I should leave first. If I stay in one place, they'll find me easily. Immediately, Lu Ming left the place and flew toward the north. He had done his research before and knew that the ancient sorcerer shrine was in the south of the great ancient world. The great sorcerer shrine was in the north of the great ancient world. Since the ancient sorcerer shrine was chasing him, he decided to go to the great sorcerer shrine. Even though he wasn't sure whether the great sorcerer shrine would chase him or not, it was better than staying there. Very quickly a day passed. Unfortunately, before he could leave the territory of the ancient sorcerer shrine, the strong cultivators of the ancient sorcerer shrine found him. Lu Ming was flying when the void collapsed all of a sudden. A few attacks blasted toward Lu Ming from all directions. They were so powerful that it made one's countenance change. There were 3 attacks, all from cultivators of the 2nd Godly Emperor layer. In an instant, Lu Ming judged the ability of the person who attacked him. Chapter 41:33. 3 cultivators of the 2nd Great Supreme God layer were attacking him at the same time. He couldn't stop them on his own. However, Lu Ming had been on high alert during this period of time. He was prepared to be sneak attacked at any moment. Therefore, the moment the other party attacked, he activated the 1st level Heavenly Soldier armor to defend himself. 3 explosions spread in the air. The three cultivators of the second Great Supreme God layer were all blocked. However, the terrifying strength still sent Lu Ming flying. He crashed on the ground, creating a crater. But as soon as Lu Ming crashed on the ground, he rose up in the air. At the same time, the Zephyr Pearl appeared in his hand. A tornado appeared and moved towards the three cultivators of the second Great Supreme God layer. The three cultivators of the second Great Supreme God layer attacked and blocked the tornado. That little boy is here. Kill him. Don't let him escape. At that moment, many people were shouting furiously. The sky was collapsing. Silhouettes kept appearing around them. So many people. Lu Ming's facial expression changed drastically. Lu Ming swept his gaze across and saw dozens of figures. There were no less than 50 of them. Some of them had strong qi, some were weak. But the weakest one had the strength of the first Great Supreme God layer. The strongest one had the strength of the second Great Supreme God layer. There were too many cultivators of the second Great Supreme God layer. Lu Ming sensed at least 10 cultivators of the second Great Supreme God layer. 10 cultivators of the second Great Supreme God layer gathered together. Their fighting strength was terrifying. Even though Lu Ming had the first-class celestial battle armor, he couldn't block them for a long time. Those people attacked as soon as they saw Lu Ming. Shush! 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 More than 50 attacks moved towards Lu Ming at the same time. It was a terrifying scene. Lu Ming didn't dare block those attacks. Even if they weren't as strong as the attacks of a cultivator of the third Great Supreme God layer, they weren't much weaker. After a few attacks, the first-class celestial battle armor wouldn't be able to withstand them. Great teleportation technique. With a thought, Lu Ming cast the transference skill. His body disappeared from the spot. When he reappeared, he had already avoided these attacks and was thousands of miles away. Then he quickly flew in a direction. It's the great teleportation technique. Chase! Quickly report this to the Protector, shouted furiously. A dozen cultivators of the second Great Supreme God layer turned into beams of light and chased after Lu Ming. Behind them, the cultivators of the first Great Supreme God layer also chased after Lu Ming. Cultivators of the second Great Supreme God layer were extremely fast. Even though Lu Ming used the great teleportation technique, he couldn't get rid of them. With the greater teleportation technique, the higher one's cultivation, the further one could teleport. With Lu Ming's current cultivation, he could not teleport too far in one go. In the blink of an eye, the two parties had traversed a long distance. Danger! Suddenly, Lu Ming felt a fatal crisis. Above his head, there was a destructive force surging towards him. It was incomparably terrifying. Lu Ming wanted to cast the transference skill to evade it, but he was shocked to discover that the transference skill actually failed. The main reason was that the force was too terrifying. The space in all directions seemed to have solidified. It was affected by the destructive force. Lu Ming could only use the celestial soldier's armor to block it. Boom! In the next instant, the destructive force bombarded the celestial soldier's armor, and an earth-shattering explosion sounded. Lu Ming's body was smashed into the ground again, creating a huge crater that was a few thousand li deep. Lu Ming felt them all over and coughed up blood. Read ebooks. At the same time, he realized that the celestial soldier's armor was dimming. It was like a candle that could be extinguished at any moment. Third Great Supreme God layer. A thought emerged in Lu Ming's mind. That attack a moment ago had been too terrifying. It had far surpassed the strength of a cultivator of the second Great Supreme God layer. Even the celestial soldier's armor had become dim after blocking that attack. It was definitely a cultivator of the third Great Supreme God layer. Cultivators of the second Great Supreme God layer didn't have such high attacking power. The celestial soldier's armor couldn't block a single attack from a cultivator of the fourth Great Supreme God layer or higher. If it had been a cultivator of the fourth great supreme god layer or higher, he would have died already. Lu Ming didn't even think about it and used the greater teleportation technique again. This time he succeeded. Lu Ming disappeared and reappeared in another place. "You want to leave? I'm here." "You can't leave," said a cold voice. Two beams of sword light shot towards Lu Ming. Then a tall and sturdy silhouette rushed towards Lu Ming at an astonishing speed. At that moment, Lu Ming finally saw the other person's face clearly. It was a tall and sturdy man with a thick beard. That tall and sturdy man must have used some kind of ancient, secret technique. His chi was overbearing and filled with destructive energy. He was extremely fast and kept getting closer to Lu Ming. "I can't fight against a cultivator of the third great supreme god layer. The celestial soldier's armor can block one attack, but it won't be able to block a second one. If I fight him head-on, I'll die. I have to run." Lu Ming didn't hesitate. He used the greater teleportation technique again and disappeared from where he was standing. He had realized how strong a cultivator of the third great supreme god layer was. Even if he used his full strength to activate the mysterious ice rod, he still couldn't defeat him. However, a cultivator of the third great supreme god layer was too strong. He had locked onto Lu Ming. Even if Lu Ming used the greater teleportation technique, he couldn't escape. The distance between the two sides was getting shorter and shorter. "I can't go on like this. I have to fight." There was a glint in Lu Ming's eyes. With a move, he changed his direction and flew toward the large group of God-the-Ark realm experts. "Stop him. By time for the protectors. Once the protectors arrive, he'll definitely die." Die. The first ones to meet Lu Ming were a dozen cultivators of the second great supreme god layer. They all roared furiously and attacked Lu Ming. The dozen or so attacks were like an avalanche. It was extremely terrifying. Zephyr Wind Barrier. Lu Ming first released the Zephyr Wind bead strength and turned it into a Zephyr Wind Barrier. Then he took out the mysterious ice staff, activated it with all his strength, and struck out. The dozen cultivators of the second great supreme god layer attacked the Zephyr Wind Barrier. The Zephyr Wind Barrier couldn't withstand the attacks of a dozen cultivators of the second great supreme god layer, and it immediately broke apart. However, he still managed to use some of the Zephyr Wind Barrier's strength. Then he used the mysterious ice rod to break apart some of the attacks. Lu Ming's silhouette flickered, and he moved towards one of the cultivators of the second great supreme god layer. When that cultivator of the second great supreme god layer saw Lu Ming approaching him, his face changed drastically, and he instinctively retreated. However, Lu Ming's target wasn't him. Lu Ming flashed and arrived in front of the cultivators of the first great supreme god layer. Die. The mysterious ice rod was incomparably huge, and when it struck out, it transformed into 9 rod shadows. You're tuning in to the Thunder Spear YouTube channel. Don't forget to subscribe and join us on this journey to catch the most captivating stories.